Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
This one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
But at least the Aggies won.
The Aggies did win. So for you Dallas fans, at 8:20, we might talk about the worst trade that I've ever witnessed. But we're not going to do that yet because we got good news to talk about.
Yes, we do.
We're going to talk about your great head of hair. Sorry. No, we're going to talk about...
It's hanging on. It's hanging on.
Looks good. No, we're going to talk about the Aggie basketball victory against South Carolina, and I got a couple thoughts on this one.
Okay.
Too close for comfort, in my opinion, for a game that I thought you were significantly better than the opposition.
Okay.
Okay? And Wade did exactly what I asked for. I said, you know what, you don't have to be 30, but just knock on the door.
There was only one more thing I would have asked from Wade. Just one more. Make those 2 free throws in the last minute. Of all the people. But Wade, we'll forgive that because you were so outstanding the rest of the game.
Well, let's maybe start off with those free throws because the game, it should not have been what did they end up winning by? 4?
By 4.
Yeah. It should have been maybe 8, 10, all right? But somehow Henry Coleman has become Mark Price or Wade Taylor when it comes to clinching free throws. I believe he is 12 of 14 in his last 2 games, and in the last 2 games has sunk all of his free throws.
Yeah, Henry
6
Coleman,
for 6, I think it is.
Yeah, he was nails, you know, and what it was, there's still like, when he goes to the foul line, there's, I think, 1.3 seconds.
1.3.
Which, it's unlikely, but you don't want to lose on that desperation shot, right? So he goes to the foul line, knocks down 2, and it's over. And that's the way I like it.
I like it that way, too.
That's the way I like it.
And let's take a macro view, and then we'll go back to a micro view of the free throws. Okay? We will take 70% from the line, won't we?
Oh, yeah.
They were great.
Especially when they're getting to the line as frequently as they did.
The Aggies are now 5-0 in SEC games when shooting 70% or better. They finished 21 of 30, but remember, they were significantly better up until the last few minutes of that half. Of the game.
Yeah. They did not get a field. Did they get no field goals for the last 4 minutes and change? And they were erratic at the foul line, and that is why South Carolina was able to get into it, make it interesting.
Well, they had several droughts in that game. You're just like, they can't score.
That's true. Sometimes they did. Had a 15-0 run, though, and then an 8-0 run. I mean,
but they gave up a 13-0
You know what they were? They were streaky. They were a streaky team.
And typically, they're very streaky in a good kind of way in the first half of games. They're really, the Ole Miss game, they turn it on in the second half, right? But
and Oklahoma as well.
Oklahoma, thank you. But they hit some threes in the first half, don't they?
Oh, they did. And again, Wade, what was Wade in the first half on the 3? Did he have 6?
I think he had
maybe 5. Because he had 7 for the game. He was 7 of 11.
I think it was 5.
Yeah, man.
I'll take it.
Heck yeah,
I'll take it.
Heck yeah.
But he seemed not just because of the production. Yes, the production. But the way he just felt it. He's like, give me the ball, I'm going to shoot. And sometimes I'd rather he didn't. But he has earned the green light.
He has. And I will push back just a little bit. Yeah, I could have gone without the drama. However, we have to understand South Carolina as well. That is the 4th consecutive game at home for South Carolina that they've lost to a highly ranked SEC team by 5 points or less. Again, they lost to number 1 Auburn by 3 points at home.
Yep.
Then they lost at that time number 5 Florida by 1 point, and Florida gave it away. They gave it away to Florida. They lost in overtime by 5 points to Mississippi State, and then they lose by 4 to A&M. So South Carolina, don't pay attention to the record. When they're at home, they're a better team. And now you root for them because they're going to go out, and I guarantee you they're going to beat somebody and mess it up for somebody. And it's probably going to help A&M.
See, but the way I look at it is, it's not you, it's me when you're breaking up with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not about South Carolina.
I was never that way. I was always the one to say, yeah, it is you. But go on.
But in South Carolina, yes, South Carolina, I expected it to be tight. But there were a couple of moments in the game where you're like, we can knock. It can be a blowout, right? It can be. In the second half, you're up 13, you're feeling great, and then you don't score for, 4 minutes, it felt like? It was. But regardless, this team just wins tight games.
They got the win.
They keep winning quad 1 and quad 2 games, right?
Yeah.
They're in the top 4 spots in the SEC. They're exactly where they need to be right now.
Man, I hope they can stay in the top 4 and get the double bye in the tournament.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be easy. And let me ask you this.
I'll answer.
All right, we've had some angst here and there about the loss at Texas and having to come back against Oklahoma and Ole Miss and then losing out, all those things. When the SEC season started, like on January 4th or whatever it was, and if I told you at the midway mark of the SEC race it'd be 6-3, would you have signed off on it?
Yeah.
Of course, 6-3 at the midway point of the SEC of this brutal SEC grind.
And also considering part of your SEC schedule, how many? 3 games without Wade Taylor?
Yeah, 3, maybe 3 and change there.
3 and change. And Solo has now missed 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Hayden missed a game. These are integral parts of your. Well, Wade is the most integral part. But my point is 6-3, considering what you've gone through. Yeah, I would sign up for it. But this is. Because I'm a worrier, I sometimes look at where they struggle more than where they excel. And where they excel is defense.
They do.
So does South Carolina, by the way.
You know what, man? South Carolina, they're better than you think. You know what gets overlooked a little bit is the inside play of the Aggies in this game.
Henry and Farrell.
Yeah, I mean, they were... On defense, they were doing some work.
Yeah.
But of course, you're going to focus on what Wade did, and you're going to focus on Henry at the foul line late because that's how you nailed it down. But
rough night for Farrell. Zurich Phelps.
It was
1 of 9, 4 turnovers.
He's
streaky.
He's like playing. I was at a casino this weekend, and
did you go black?
Huh?
Did you go black or red?
I didn't play roulette,
okay.
but he's like he's like playing roulette because it's high risk, but it's high reward.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not going well, but I mean, you hit the number, it pays off 35-1.
Right.
So high risk, high reward with.
And by the way, you don't win a bunch of those games without Wade if Zurich does not step up.
What about Zurich against OU?
Right.
Right. You don't win that one if Zurich doesn't go crazy against
especially
OU.
In that second half. Yeah. So bracketology-wise, ESPN and then On3 has one. I just checked it out today. Both have A&M going to
Denver.
Yeah.
Oh, well
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it never works out the way
it doesn't work out the way we want. It's going to be somehow they're going to just have it held in Guam and just be like, yeah, just for the Aggies. Just
hey, at least it'd be warm.
Yeah, this is true. So according to On3, A&M would play 14 seed Jacksonville State.
Okay. The Dolphins.
And they'd be
the alma mater of former San Antonio Spurs center Artis Gilmore.
And they would be paired up with Oregon. Who A&M lost to.
Get a second shot at them, maybe.
Who would take on Drake?
Drake,
the rapper.
The Drake Bulldogs from Des Moines, Iowa.
So if we take on Drake at some point, we definitely need Kendrick there.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that means.
Okay. According to ESPN, A&M would also be in Denver.
Drake from State Farm.
A&M would also be in Denver.
In Denver.
Taking on Samford.
And Son.
Lamont. I was more of a Lamont guy.
Okay, I can believe that.
Aunt Esther?
Esther.
Aunt Esther. Yeah. Anyway, you would also, there's like everybody.
Go away, Esther.
All the kids were, what are you talking about?
Memphis
versus Drizzy Drake.
Okay, Memphis.
So either way, it looks like Drake's in the mix.
And you're due to beat Memphis if you get them, because I think the last 3 times you played Memphis, you've had chances to win and let them get away, but maybe not this year.
So that is the most up-to-date bracketology that I saw this morning.
I saw somebody, right, maybe it was Lenardi even said that, with a strong second half, A&M
could be a 2 seed?
Could be a 2 seed.
You would have to have a really strong second half.
Yeah, you would.
Because we know that schedule, so...
Yeah, they go to Missouri this weekend, and Missouri's playing good ball.
Missouri destroyed. Who did they just destroy? They just Mississippi State on the road. They destroyed them. And they got that guy Grill. That's just raining 3-pointers in that game. Big Grill. So they're going to have to get up in their grill. Do you like Paul Wall?
Say what?
Never mind. Anyway, look, got to be.
Is that another Drake guy or what?
No, he's not a Drake guy. He's a Houston.
Paul who?
Paul Wall.
Paul Wall?
Yeah. The People's Champ?
Don't know.
I bet you the people in the studio know.
Yeah, they probably do, but I don't.
Maybe not. Anyway, let's celebrate an Aggie victory. A not a bye week, but you get some time off.
Yeah, you get a no midweek game, so you get to rest a little bit. And the Aggies have been pushed. They've had a lot of quick turnaround games, so you get a chance to heal up and get your legs fresher and take a break. I could use one.
So this is TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio, and it is the Go Hour presented by
CC Creations.
The warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan. I'm David Nuño. And today is Monday, February 3rd?
February 3rd. The groundhog saw a shadow yesterday.
Did he?
Yeah, so I guess we're going to have 6 weeks of winter, but it feels pretty good outside.
It felt good today. Currently, this area of the studio that we're in has a name, OB.
Yeah, it's the Holistic Planning Cool Zone.
Where you can do what?
Yeah, you can get, you can go to Holistic Planning if you need help on your investments, your taxes.
It's coming.
And estate planning. And part of your estate planning, if you so choose, could be investing in what?
Pro sports.
Pro sports.
You can buy the Dallas Mavericks and make a better trade by going to investinprosports.com.
Somebody please buy the Mavericks and fire Nico Harrison.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that here. Because I think this story definitely, I think the entire country, the whole world was talking about it, right?
Yeah, they
so
are.
We'll get into that here in a moment. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us up at 979-693-1150. And that, by the way, is the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Buppy's now joining the team.
Great. I like Buppy's. In fact, back in the day, Buppy's used to cater back when coaches had luncheons.
Yeah.
Buppy's used to cater the Dennis Francione and R.C. Slocum luncheons, and they were great.
They've been around for 35 years, catering generations of families. Buppy's mobile bar available for any outdoor event. Ask about their bar bundle discount, 979-779-6417. You can also text us on that same number, 979-693-1150. We go around the room, we say hi to the people, and Nick Savage starts us off. Nick, good morning.
Yeah. Howdy, good morning, y'all.
How are you?
Yeah, it sounds like I've been smoking a pack a day for about 30 years. I don't know why. But,
just a weekend of smoking?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, a lot of I'm just kidding. I was talking to Matthew earlier this morning, I should say, and he loves to crunch numbers and odds and whatnot. And he reminded me just how hard the SEC is in basketball. So get this: A&M's implied probability to win the SEC tournament under 1%, 0.9%. So under 1%. Chance to make the Final Four, 7.6%. So they have a better chance to make the Final Four than they do win the SEC tournament. And to win a national championship, 2.1%. So
they have a better chance to win a national championship than the SEC tournament.
Or the SEC regular season championship, I think he's mean. Probably both. Matthew Dawson needs to go out and have some fun, right?
When's the last time he partied? Do you know that, Nick?
He likes to have some brews.
His idea of partying is crunching the number.
He's like
he said, "Hey, I got a fun idea. Let's do some taxes this weekend. That'll be a blast."
He's like the guys on Good Will Hunting that go to the bar and they're just doing math problems while they're drinking beer. That's Matthew Dawson.
Yeah, but doesn't get the girl at the end. Doesn't. Hey, how do you like those apples?
He doesn't eat apples, by the way.
He probably always took one to his teacher.
100%.
Looks like me, kind of a suck up.
Yeah, he's 100% that. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carter Adams is there. Carter, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
We're good.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Good.
What's going on with you?
So I just wanted to talk about some key stats that I thought were pretty cool from the A&M South Carolina game.
All right.
Obviously, Wade Taylor shooting a season-high 25 points. He actually matched his career high of 7 3-pointers from last year's NCAA tournament win over Nebraska.
Yeah.
All of his 7 field goals came from behind the arc, which is pretty cool to me. Texas A&M was successful on 70% of its free throws while hitting 21 of 30 from behind the line, including 16 makes in the second half. The Aggies took an 8-point lead into halftime, 44-36, while the bulk of the scoring came from Taylor, who drained 5 of 6 3-pointers on his way to 15 first-half points. So pretty dominant from Wade Taylor. That's kind of what you need to get over the hump against South Carolina. Like Nick was saying, the SEC is a gauntlet, so any road win is certainly good. So I'm glad the outcome was how it was.
I never doubted they're going to win the game. I just at times like, why has it got to be close? Why do I got to think about it? I wanted to watch something else. I was ready to move on.
See, and here's, I don't know, maybe I'm becoming the worrywart like you can be, but at halftime, I felt like they had dominated the first half, and like Carter was saying, they're knocking down 3-pointers at a rate that they typically don't, and yet they're only up 8 on the road.
That always scares you.
Guys, this is starting to feel like Texas.
Yeah,
but it wasn't. I still cannot believe I'm yelling at the TV late. Get the ball to Wade, make him foul Wade, and then Wade gets fouled, and of all people,
he misses.
And that just doesn't happen. That's almost as rare, him missing 2 in a row, as the comment that comes around. What is it?
Haley's comment?
Yeah.
Every 76 years. I think.
That's about when Wade misses 2 in a row.
I watched Haley's comment, believe it or not. I think it was 1984.
I believe it.
I might be wrong on that. Somebody fact check me.
But anyway, the point is, it's a rarity to see Wade miss 2 free throws in a row.
Yes, it is. Anything else for us, Carter?
Well, we're talking about Wade at the free throw line. Henry Coleman, like you guys said, he was perfect 4 for 4 from the free throw line. So making those 2 at the end was pretty cool to see. He had 12 points on 4 to 6 shooting. Another stat I thought was interesting. The rebounding battle was closer than I thought, as A&M managed to just get a 32-29 advantage on the boards with a 9-8 advantage on the offensive glass. But those free throws ended up being clutch for us. So
I know you got some other sports to get into. Let's try to get into women's basketball before we hit a break.
I've got some notes on tennis if you guys want to hear that.
Okay, let's do that.
Awesome. So the women's tennis number 2 Aggies swept Sam Houston for their 60th straight home victory. Swept Sam Houston 7-0 in front of the packed crowd at the Mitchell Tennis Center. I got a quote from head coach Mark Weaver on the topic about how his team takes care of business. He said, at the end of the day, we played a feisty team that made us work for a lot of the points, and we left with that 7-0 victory. We felt like we've really taken care of business in our matchups up to this point, and we're in a good place now as we head into the national indoors.
Head coach Weaver in studio last week, one of the best.
Good guy.
Great guy.
Lives on my street.
Does he?
Yeah.
And then it's interesting, you haven't invited him to 1775. I mean, he's busy recruiting and winning national championships, so I get it.
You know what? He deserves it.
Yeah.
I went to 1775 recently, just a reminder of how amazing it is. But yeah, if anyone deserves a trip to 1775, it's Mark Weaver. In fact, I always think that should be written into a contract. If I win a championship, I get to go to 1775 as, like
5 times.
Five times, as often as I want.
How about once a month for a year?
Once a week, it's a national championship.
Yeah, if Buzz wins it, if Coach Early wins it, if not Jimbo, goodness, Elko, anybody on campus, we give them a nice little seating or a nice little feast at 1775.
I think they ought to use that as a,
NIL, everything, right?
A recruiting ploy. Like, hey, if you come here, you get to go to 1775.
And you know what? I was invited to go with you and IDOC on Thursday. You didn't know that, but yeah, I was invited to go.
No, I knew that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we should have. But I was told that you didn't want me to go.
No, that's not true.
Oh, okay.
If I didn't want you to go, it would only be because that means it's more for me. More of that succulent brisket.
He invited me to go on Wednesday. They're not open on Wednesday. They're open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out.
Until they're sold out. I think Mrs. Buchanan is going this weekend with me, or sometime this week with a bunch of people she works with.
1775txbbq.com is the website. Go check it out.
It's Larapin.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
Welcome back into TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, The Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, I got a comparison for you.
Okay.
What the Dallas Mavericks just did, to me, is the equivalent of trading Billy Liucci for some random dude at a, it was pretty good at one point, but not like why would you trade a 25-year-old star, one of the 4 or 5 best players in the league, a few months after he took you to the NBA Finals, not even, I guess a year after he scored 70 in a game, I don't understand the thinking in Dallas. I think it's look. I've come from a unique position. I'm one of the 3 people in the country that are allowed to root for the Mavericks and the Rockets. My sports career started in Dallas because of Mark Cuban. I came in '99, so a year after Dirk got drafted, a year after Steve Nash was traded there. The beginning of that, in the Rodman year, by the way. So I came in at a time that like they had just become one of the better. They were becoming one of the better franchises. What they have done over the last few months, and honestly, since the NBA Finals as an organization, they got lucky getting Luka. They got lucky getting him, right? I am disgusted that the NBA has allowed that. I don't understand. I would have understood Kyrie Irving for Anthony Davis, but Luka?
Yeah, it's stupid. Obviously, they got some guy with a self-importance issues. This Nico Harris, I've never heard of him before until today. So he's gonna go down, I believe, as a in history as a failed general manager, a buffoon. I think he must be mentally challenged to make that deal. I'm going to take one of the 4 or 5 best players in the league, as you said, who's 25 years old, and trade him for a guy that's going to be 32 pretty soon. Good player, but not a great player. Look, people, we can debate this, but you'll agree with this. It's always said, hey, LeBron's the best player in the world, right?
Yeah.
And they haven't won a championship in, 4 or 5 years?
2020.
Okay, so 5 years. They haven't won a championship with LeBron and Anthony Davis playing. So Anthony Davis, who hasn't been able to win a championship and now he's older, is going to make you better.
And he's also injury prone.
So, Luka has been lately. But here's the thing. If you're a Mavericks fan and you know that Luka's been hurt, and I think Kyrie Irving's been hurt some too, because my son's a huge fan and he tells me that you really just want to, at this point, tread water and just get into the playoffs and be healthy. So if you're in the playoffs healthy with Luka, and all of a sudden nobody wants to play you because you
100%.
But here's what my big problem is that somebody in ownership signed off on it. If the owner, whoever it is, I know it's not Cuban anymore, but when this Harrison guy came in and said, hey, what do you think about trading Luka? He should have said, are you serious? And if he said yes, look, you need to clean out your office. You're fired right now. And he said, what do you mean I'm fired? You're too stupid. If you want to trade this guy, you are too stupid to have this job. And, the Mavs are, I believe, are going to go into a tailspin for the next several years. And they're going to be a below average team. And the Lakers are going to be good for the next decade or whatever because of Luka. And
he's going to win an NBA championship with the Lakers.
By the way, I believe that, or I would not be surprised, let me say this, if the NBA itself is somewhat behind this.
Well, maybe. And the reason I say maybe to that is because it doesn't make sense at all. There's not one person that looks at it from a Dallas point of view that it makes sense. And also, I remember in 2006, the Mavs got embarrassed, and I think the referees played a little part in this, in the series against the Miami Heat, right?
Yeah, the referees absolutely did.
Where Dwayne Wade, if you breathed on him, he got to go to the foul line. But regardless, there were similar conversations about Dirk Nowitzki after the 2006 finals, because the next year, if you remember, they got swept by the 8-seed Golden State Warriors. Mm-hmm. I think they had won 66 games. They were the number 1 seed, and they lose to an 8-seed Golden State Warriors. And there was talk about Dirk. He goes, he can't play defense, and if you give him a left hook, he won't get back up. Had the Mavericks listened to what some of the people were saying about Dirk not being, a postseason player, they would have never gotten the 2011, was it 2011?
2011 championship.
NBA championship, where he, by the way, carried them, I would say, an inferior roster to some of the teams they beat, including LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, when they were mocking him for having the flu. Those stories don't get done. The Rockets, I told you before the show, almost traded Hakeem Olajuwon a couple years before they won the championship to the Pacers for the Duncan Dutchman, your buddy, Rick Smits.
Rick Smits. None of it makes sense. That's why I believe the NBA might be behind this. It's my understanding. Now, I may be wrong on this, but this is what I've read, that the NBA is really losing money. They're suffering. They've lost a lot of attendance. Ratings are really down. And I guess the Lakers are okay, but they're not like a championship caliber team. And that's their marquee franchise, them and the Celtics. And they need Los Angeles to be good. And if you look historically, there's often been these really bizarre trades or free agents moves that allowed Shaquille O'Neal to go there in his prime, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Wilt Chamberlain, or Pau Gasol,
or Anthony Davis, by the way.
So and all of a sudden, here it comes again. How does this keep happening so often for that particular franchise when they need it the most?
Well, OB,
if you're going to trade him, you trade him to the Eastern Conference, and I can't believe. I read somebody at first they said the Lakers there was only 2 teams that showed interest, and one of them said no, and so the Lakers was the only one to bite. But then I read there's another GM said I never even knew he was, and he said I would have given everything we had for him.
Apparently, Jason Kidd didn't know.
Yeah, see, so it's this guy Nico Harrison.
Can you imagine?
We thought Bill O'Brien was bad when he let DeAndre Hopkins go.
That was the worst trade, I think, of my lifetime. Yeah. I'm sure there was another one, but that affected me. How about that?
We need to do a look at the worst trades ever. It's like you look at the Cowboys with the Herschel Walker. The Cowboys weren't good.
Yeah.
The Mavericks with a healthy Doncic are
they were in the finals.
They're a championship contender. It's just there's nothing about this that makes sense.
Well, look. I know if you want Dallas talk, you'll listen to a Dallas sports station, but I think it was a big enough story to hit. And one of the things, we got to hit a break here, OB, but one of the things I want to touch on is what the hell is happening in Dallas overall? The Rangers, okay, you got your championship a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Right? That was beautiful. But what the Cowboys are doing and what the Mavs are doing, how
are the Stars?
They're usually really good.
I don't follow hockey, but I don't know.
Carter, look it up. Give me stats. I know Dalton or Zane is listening. They're going to quickly. Well, Zane's more of a Red Wings fan, but he knows what's happening with the Stars. They're usually really good.
How are the Wings?
At where? At what particular place?
Isn't that the
Dallas Wings?
The WNBA team.
Yeah, that's the WNBA team. I'm not sure how they're doing. Do you have the where are the Stars?
Stars beat the Columbus Blue Jackets yesterday. They're second in the Central Division.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Pretty good.
So I'm sure there's a GM there just waiting to sabotage them.
I'm going to trade Troy Aikman at the peak of his career to the San Diego Chargers for.
It's kind of like this, except the difference is.
Sorry?
I was going to say the Dallas Wings last year were 9-31.
Ooh, it's bad times in Dallas.
No, it wouldn't have been like trading the Aikman at the peak of his career to the Chargers. It'd been like trading Aikman at the peak of his career to the Niners, or the Packers. There's a word that you're not supposed to use anymore about the mentally challenged that I want to use, but I'll just let it go. But you know what the word is, and that's what this trade was.
Let's get it started here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. If you only knew what I meant by that, OB. Right now, we're talking about sponsorship and vendor opportunities with the Association of Former Students. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during marquee events held throughout the year. We're talking about Aggie Ring Day, Aggie Hullabaloo, the gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of guests. And there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of those attendees. All these events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand that include title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, activation, and recognition in social media posts. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. Everyone, David Nuño here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season. That was a little before my time, OB. Were you in the casino? Not the casino. Sorry, the discos during the
No,
John
you know what?
Travolta days?
Truthfully, I was one of those that was death before disco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Death before disco.
Death before disco.
All right. I could see you wearing the all white suit, white shoes.
Doing that never happened.
Actually, I could see you dressing up as Kramer in that one episode where he's got the hat on, he's got the
Like the pimp look?
Yeah, I can see you doing that.
No.
No?
Yeah.
Hey, it's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio.
Maybe on Halloween.
Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. You always do come up with a good idea for Halloween. Have you already started thinking about next year?
I've been you for Halloween,
Yeah.
and this
McGee was your best.
And I don't know. I thought.
Yeah, mine was pretty good. Darn good too.
I would like to maybe figure out a way to become as Liucci.
Okay.
Or Broniger.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have any ideas how you'd make that work?
Well, first of all, Broniger, I'd have to have something that make my eyes look really big. Like I don't know if I can make them big enough. I'd have to get one.
Are you saying he looks like an alien?
No, I think he just has looks like a frog with big bug eyes.
Wow. All right, let's get on to task. By the way, it's the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations.
Broniger.
OB, so we got a little bit of a break before the Ags play again. I kind of want to just go over where they are right now.
Okay.
6-3 in SEC play.
Very good.
Which I think is excellent. It's even better when you consider the situation.
And it's painful that it could have been 7-2, but because you let one get away, but you also took two and pulled them out of the fire. So
Correct. Okay. They have, if I'm reading this correctly, 12 quad 1 and quad 2 victories, which is second in all of basketball to only Auburn and Alabama, who have 13.
Yeah. I mean, look, Buzz put together a tough schedule because I think, he knew he had a good team and had a chance to really do some good things, and they have.
I think.
Boy, and was for real Payne, has he been, just a godsend, just what the doctor ordered. The last piece.
Yes. Now, if you look at the box score, his numbers aren't eye-popping, but his impact was eye-popping.
Yeah. Again, he played really good defense, and he had a huge block late.
He did.
He's just been so good. And I think he makes some guys around him better.
He does. And honestly, look, I know that I don't want to say all over the place, but I sometimes need to enjoy the moment more than I do when it comes to athletics, because when I see the Ags win, I'm also picking at some of their flaws of what I think could happen, as opposed to saying, well, these flaws that this team has that A&M's about to play, we're going to pick it. So I sometimes struggle with that, right? But this is a fun group to watch that, yes, at times their offense, I don't know if drives me crazy is the right way to phrase it, but I'm just like, how are we ever going to score again?
Yeah.
But they're 7-2 in games decided by 5 points or less.
Yeah. I mean, they look.
In the SEC.
They're a streaky team. And they can go off and go on a 15-0 run and look like they're in complete control, and then go from 15-0 and not score for 5 minutes.
Right.
And that's who they are. But they typically find a way that get hot at the right time. Somebody that you don't expect to make a shot, like say Manny Obaski hits a three at the buzzer when he hadn't hit a three, I think, the whole game, right?
Yep.
Things like that. So you don't know who's going to step up and be that supporting guy from game to game, but somebody almost always is. They have good depth, and I think their depth is probably the strength of their team, aside from Wade.
If we were to guess, how many wins in the SEC do you think they need to have to be a 3 seed? 3 or 4 seed?
Well, let's just say,
does 10-8 get them 3 or 4 seed?
Maybe.
I think 11 is the
11.
number.
But let's see if they can't go 6-3 in the second half of the season. Now, I wish I had their schedule right here.
We can pop it up right there. Why don't you do the full screen one for us? There we go.
And nothing is. I mean, Missouri is not a for sure thing.
Nope.
But you're certainly capable of winning that game. Georgia at home, I'm going to feel good about any game at home.
Yep.
But again, there are no, quote, layups And if there were, A&M struggles with layups sometimes. Arkansas, I thought, was going to be a layup.
But they just
beat
Kentucky.
They just beat Kentucky bad. At Mississippi State, scary.
And see, now I'm going pessimistic David again.
Tennessee was looking vulnerable, and then they just mugged Florida this week. Vanderbilt, I'd feel pretty good about that one.
I think they're going to drop out of the top 25. Didn't they just lose this weekend?
Yeah. Florida's going to be tough. You typically have great games between Florida. Well, I think their good guard might have gotten hurt this week. We'll see. Auburn. It's going to be good to see them play Auburn at home, but man, Auburn's good. And then at LSU.
Yeah.
So can you get 6 more wins out of that? Can you? If you go 12-6 in the SEC, you're at worst a 3 seed.
There are no gimmies on this side of the schedule. No gimmies, right? But let's just see where we can get those wins. Okay. So
find 6.
I look at Missouri and I say that's a 50-50 game to me, right?
Okay.
I think you beat them at home, on the road. Who knows? Okay. That's my opinion. Georgia, you should.
Especially at home.
It's a should, right? Okay. Arkansas's a should.
A should, okay.
Those are 2 shoulds.
If you're right on those, you got 3 of them.
Okay.
You're halfway there.
Which is the other one I got that was the other should?
Because
I don't know if
you said
Missouri's
Georgia and Arkansas.
That's 2.
And then you're saying,
LSU
is a 50-50. LSU on the road.
That's
but
3.
Still, that would be 3.
Those are the should wins. And
maybe Vanderbilt at home.
Okay. 4 shoulds.
Okay.
Can you then...
For sure.
You need it for shoulds?
4 shoulds for sure.
For shoulds gives you 3 shoulds or wins.
So that's at 4, and I need to find 2 more wins. And that would be Missouri and Tennessee at home.
Yep.
Even though, Tennessee just
12-6 in this SEC.
You should be if you're 12-6 in this SEC, especially with what you did before conference play, I would think that you could be no worse than a 3 seed. And that's my expert opinion on it. And of course, I'm no expert. But
what if you go 9-9?
9-9, man, that would be a disappointment.
Are you 7-8 seed then?
I don't know. I don't know if you're a 7 or 8. Maybe a 7. Maybe a 6. I mean,
and again, this is not taking into account what happens in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, the tournament, as we've learned, really doesn't matter.
It can help you, I guess, but
I saw the Aggies get to the final. It didn't help them.
Anyway, let's hit a break here. We'll come back. I want to get to some text messages and also some help A&M is getting when it comes to perception, at least. That and more. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. YourHeritageFilm.com is the website to go to get a documentary done about your family or your family business or your family ranch or your group of buddies that get together and play lacrosse every weekend. Whatever you guys do, let Chance McClain and his staff tell that story in a 2-hour documentary form. I think you're going to love it. We're spending time with my dad, who's doing great, 94 years old. I wouldn't say doing great, but he's doing pretty well considering 94. And we were talking about his heritage film. We literally were talking about it this weekend because, thank goodness we were able to do it. My dad's still talking clearly. He's still good. But had we waited too long, you may not be able to capture that story. I think it's a very important thing to capture people's stories where they can say it with clarity and just remember all these fine points of their life. And I think you're going to really, really love it when you get a heritage film done from Chance McClain. The website, YourHeritageFilm.com. YourHeritageFilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. It's Heritage Films. And we're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Before we go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, I did want to bring this up, OB, because we're talking about A&M's image and, when it comes to what seed they could be. So the Houston Cougars, who are fantastic, had a 13-game win streak. They just lost in overtime to
Texas Tech.
To Texas Tech. A&M beat Texas Tech. So this all is a part of some kind of, and I think Tech is top 15 team right now.
They're good.
Yeah. So I think that goes a long way. Not a long way, but it is part of the story. You beat a very good team, right? By the way, I know that
it works in the net rankings.
Yeah. Yep. So it sure does. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carter, what do you have for us?
So involving men's basketball, Damian Hernandez says, it was a good margin of victory considering the other teams South Carolina has come close to beating. However, there is a bad tendency of us making these games too close at the end.
I got to tell you, I know what you're saying because, again, who needs the angst?
Yeah.
But just win.
At the end of the day,
in this SEC, just win. There are no bad wins in this SEC.
No. But two things. You walk away, if you win by a point or by 20, it's the same, right? But for my viewing enjoyment.
For your angst.
Right? Like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to like stress.
Right.
Right? But in the SEC, you're going to stress every game, in every sport. And every once in a while, I just want a Conference USA kind of win. That's what I want.
Remember, these Aggies were trailing Southern by like a dozen or more at halftime. So, Southern. I'm sure Southern's.
And they've also beaten Purdue, and they've beaten Texas Tech, and they've beaten.
Oh, they beat the daylights out of Southern in the second half.
This is true.
But they're just, you know what? They're just.
The other team's trying to.
Yeah, and they're who they are, but they're as long as they keep winning.
From a talent perspective, they are they are ahead of where they should be if you went just on talent.
I think they're I think they got
a top four team in the SEC.
I think they have more talent than people realize. What they don't have is size, a lot of size.
But they don't have lottery picks on their team.
They don't.
Auburn does. Alabama does.
But a lot of that comes back to the size.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'll roll with these guys.
I will too.
See
street fight with those dudes.
But I don't know if I do. I definitely take them in like a quiz bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some smart, good guys there.
I think I would take them in a street fight. Can you imagine Henry Coleman and Anderson Garcia in a street fight?
I think those guys would negotiate it into we're not going to. By the time everybody be friends, I don't think it'd be a street fight. I think they'd talk it out.
Okay.
I think they're all like what's the word? Ambassadors? Is that
yeah. Yeah, I mean, Henry does get invited to all these things around.
Yeah, Henry's going to be a senator.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's conservative.
Let's get another one, Carter.
So, involving the Luka trade, Frank Mason says, OB and David, the Mavs got the better trade. Luka is lazy and injury prone and always needs the ball.
No. Windthorst, who's a shield for the NBA, he was saying that crap last year and they were in the finals.
Yeah. Look, the Mavs could make it to the NBA Finals this year and win an NBA championship, and I'll still think, I don't think that was the right trade.
Wrong trade.
But by the way, I kind of understand the thinking, not Luka part. Please don't. I understand adding a 5 when you already have a dominant guard. I understand the thinking behind it. But as you pointed out, that 5 played with the world's best player.
Supposedly.
And
they're all right.
They're just a team.
I don't know. I just saw how many of these long threes have I seen Luka just bury time and again. You just don't have a talent like that all the time.
Do you have a quick A&M text you can get to? Because we've got to end on an A&M note. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Just look.
There's got to be something here.
Okay.
There's got to be.
This is really getting awkward now.
Aggies won again.
Here's one. A&M keeps winning close games. OB, thank you, sir.
All right, you bet.
When we come back on TexAgs Live, we'll talk a little baseball. How about that?
How about that?
Livingstone. We're going to be living with Scott here on TexAgs Live. We're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. A&M's baseball season going to start on Valentine's. I believe that's Friday the 14th, if I got that date correctly. So we're going to be chatting a lot of baseball and softball over the next couple weeks to get you ready for it. I know JB Moss going to be joining us here soon, potentially on Friday. John Sheshik. And right now, we're going to go to the hotline, the Bubby's Catering hotline. We are joined by Scott Livingstone, Aggie third baseman, and, of course, Ball 5 podcast here on the program. Scotty, what's up, man?
Hey, not a lot, man. I'm ready for the 14th, Valentine's Day, man. Let's get this party started.
Well, I forget. Did we speak? I'm sure we did right after the whole College World Series coaching change and all that. I think we spoke a little bit that week, actually. So here we are. All that transpired at the end of the season, and I'm talking on the diamond and off. Have you had as a fan, because I know as a player it's different, but as a fan, more, I don't know, counting the days more than you have for this particular season in that time since you played?
Oh, yeah, I believe so. Most definitely. I mean, the way the season ended last year, it was kind of heartbreaking to get that far and to lose the last game of the season that anybody's ever played that year. So, to go that far, it was tough to swallow, but, it just makes you more excited for this year to come. And what those guys did last year has created more excitement for what can happen this year.
So the preseason polls out there say that A&M should be the number one team in the country, are the number one team in the country, considering what went out the door, which wasn't that much. Obviously, you're going to miss some dudes, right? You can't feel great about losing Brady Montgomery to the MLB draft, right? You can't Oshtenbeck moving on, right? Like, it doesn't feel good. But then you look at the nucleus that stayed, and what they have added. How do you feel about that number one ranking?
I feel good about it. I mean, you look at them on paper, they're, in a sense, better than last year's team. I mean, they really are, based on what they've added, what they had come back. Yeah, it's tough to replace a Montgomery, but maybe there's a guy that can do that in Hensler or Cash, somebody else, or maybe those guys combined can put up his numbers. Because, I mean, you pretty much know what you're going to get from the Jaces and the Grahovacs and Sorrells and those guys, and the pitching staff too, which I think the pitching staff's going to surprise us this year and do quite well, I believe. But, it's getting those guys back and trying to replace production from last year. I think we're stronger.
How excited are you for the Michael Early era? All right. And I don't know if you've spoken to him before, but, to me, the fact that all these players went to bat for him, to use a baseball term, right, and he is now your head coach, and a team that is so close, yet inexperienced as a head coach. But when you got a veteran team like this, Scott, like, I think pushing the right buttons is obviously a thing, but you also are going to be led from within. Yeah,
I mean, I agree because, he said it before, coach led, coach fed, player led, so he's a real players manager. I'm going to give him high praise here. I kind of equate him to my manager in San Diego, Bruce Bochy, who, he was a players manager, and he let the players ran the clubhouse. They policed themselves. And when you've got the experience that these guys have in that locker room, the older players can kind of bring the young guys along and just keep everybody, make sure they toe the line and they're ready to go because they're just going to keep playing their ball. And I think with, like I said, what they've added, they're just stronger than last year. I really believe so. And I think there's good things ahead. But I do like the early hire. I did say that, it's a great hire, but it's the right hire. I like what he's done. And he has responded to some messages when I've messaged him a couple times. And he's a former player guy, which I like, being a former player. He's opening things up, like the first pitch weekend we have coming up. He's making that available to former players to come in. And I think it's the right hire. It's a great hire. And I think he's going to be great for A&M.
So D1 Baseball has Jace, Ryan Prager, Gavin Grahovac, and Wyatt Hensler on their preseason All-Americans, which is a huge, having those guys here to do what is expected this year. So let's kind of take them in parts. Where can Jace take his game this year? Last year, 29 homers, bat 305, right? Top 10 in home runs, you name it, runs scored, total bases. Where can Jace take his game?
Well, I mean, after his freshman year, he still had a target on his back because everybody was like, "God, this guy's amazing. He's good. He's stud. He's got all the tools," and he still put up better numbers last year. And so I think he can keep getting better at all aspects of the game. And I think if he cuts down on strikeouts, he's going to have a higher average because those outs some of them are going to turn into hits. So I think he can definitely elevate even further. I think there's more in the tank.
Ryan Prager, the fact that he's coming back, like you get your ace, who was awesome in Omaha, who was just awesome all last season. 19 starts, 9-1 record last year, 2.95 ERA, 1.05 WHIP, team high 124 strikeouts to his only 20 walks. Let's talk Prager here.
Well, it's almost like getting a guy in the transfer portal, right, that you didn't expect to get, because now he's back and you have to you're setting your roster and thinking ahead of like, okay, who do we go get? Who do we look at? Then all of a sudden, bam, you get an all-star, all-American like Prager back. And I mean, it just solidifies that rotation even more. And what a great leader, too, to have for the staff for this year. So I think he's going to be, better than he was last year, a great leader, and just, a big compliment to the team that he was last year.
So we remember Jace's freshman year. Then we remember Gavin Grohovec's freshman year. And it's just, you're great, you're great, you're great. So let's talk Gavin here in year 2.
Yeah, when people talk about the home runs and what's been done and home run records and this and that, let's talk about Jace. Let's not forget about Gavin. I mean, that rookie, the freshman record was broken after 35, 38 years, however long it was, and then it was broken again the next year by Gavin. So, Gavin's a force too. I think he's just going to get better and better, and the more comfortable he gets at the plate, doing more things, getting another year with Early and Coach Longley in the batting cage, and just becoming a better, smarter hitter. I think he's going to be. I mean, these guys are amazing. I said it to Richard Zane, I think one time a couple weeks ago. I said, when these guys come to the plate, you don't go to the bathroom, right? You don't leave the dugout and go to the bathroom, because that's how we were with Cecil Fielder in Detroit. When he was at the plate, don't go to the bathroom. He may do something special. So that's kind of how I feel about these guys. I want to see what they can do, and you just never know what they're going to do, but it's truly probably going to be special.
Bronny mentioned that this outfield could even be better than last year's outfield. That outfield last year included Braden Montgomery, right? Like, how do you get better? But it's because of what's coming back and what's come in.
Yeah, I think when you look at the production, I don't know where all the guys are going to play or what the positions are right now. I mean, you guys may have a heads up on that, but I don't know who's going to be first, who's going to be in the outfield. But you look at this roster is littered with All-Americans and all-conference players from different, leagues that they were in. And to have the numbers and put it the numbers that they have in the past years, I mean, I think that's why it looks like it's going to be a better team, just because of what's on paper and what they've done during the fall too. Like I said, I'm not down there, but I hear things, I read things, and they're living up to, their paper clippings, so to speak.
We're talking to Scott Livingstone here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. A name that I think when we say it, like, oh yeah, he's great too, but we forget is Caden Sorrell.
I haven't forgotten about you, Caden. Don't worry about it. I hadn't forgotten about you, buddy. I had mentioned a while back last year on my Ball 5 podcast that look out for him. He's a guy that's going to sneak up on you, and he could very well be one of the most talented players on that roster when the year's over with. I mean, he's got tools, he's got everything. So you're right. I mean, he's a player, he's a stud, and I think he's just going to get better and better. Like I said, with the guys that came in as freshmen, getting their feet wet, getting some experience underneath them, under their belt, and I think he's going to just take off.
Scott, a newcomer to A&M at least is Wyatt Hensler, transferred from Penn. Led them with a 360 average, 755 slugging percentage, set the Ivy League record with 22 home runs, drove in 56. I mean, again, when you look at this lineup, like last year was you had to pitch. I mean, you had to pitch to everybody. You're gonna have to pitch to everybody this year.
Yeah, it's where are you going to take a deep breath and relax in a lineup? You're not going to all the way through the 9-hole. I mean, nobody. We haven't mentioned Caden Kent either. I mean, he's going to be a player that's has a lot of confidence and is just going to get better and better as he goes and plays more. And he's a veteran guy now, and so it's a tough lineup. But I mean, let's not forget about the pitching either. The pitching's going to be tough too. When you just gave Hensler's numbers. When you look at their numbers on paper, I mean, like I said, it's all Americans, it's all conference players. And then you hear them talk about the fall and the pitching staff. They're like, hey, you might want to take notice of what our pitchers are doing because they're pretty tough. So when you got guys that are talented as that we have on the roster as hitters are talking about the pitching, I think that says something about the full scope of the team.
So you mentioned pitching there. Bronny had a write-up recently where he's kind of just going through what's happened so far. And a couple of pitchers' names that we saw flashes from last year, Caden Wilson, Weston Moss, and Isaac Morton. So just a couple of names that, like, if they take the next step, what that pitching staff could look like.
Oh, yeah, because like we said, you know what to expect from Prager and the other guys that they have and Patton, you probably have an idea what you're going to get from him. But that backup guys, those guys that somebody's going to have to step up and be that Aschenbeck guy. Who's going to be the next Cortez? We've got guys that throw 98, 100 miles an hour with some wipeout sliders, and that's what Cortez did. So replacing those guys is going to be tough, but just the guys that you mentioned, I've seen their names. I've heard the hitters talk about it, and there's a lot of respect from the hitters for the pitchers and their arms and the guys that you mentioned and some of the other younger guys. I think the more experience they get, the better they're going to be. And I think it's just going to show, and their talent's going to rise to the top.
Another name that we talked about last year, and I see so much promise, is Justin Lampkin. So, again, you're getting names back that you counted on last year, and you were an inning away from a national championship. You're getting a huge nucleus back, and he's one of those big names.
Yeah, I know you keep bringing up these left-handed pitchers, and I'm a left-handed hitter, so I kind of get the shakes, when I see these lefties on the mound. But super talented, all these guys coming back, and Lampkin and throwing him back in the rotation, I'm assuming. I'm not exactly sure how that's all going to roll out. But just talented arms to have the luxury of having them back and on the mound and knowing what they've done and their experience is just going to prove, it's going to be something that Coach Kelly and Coach Early are just going to be able to rely on, the guys that have the experience, and I think it's going to be huge.
How difficult is it for a team that has all these accolades, that just had an amazing year, but they finished short? Like, that's the mindset, right? Like, hey, guys, we haven't done jack yet. Like, we finished last year an inning away. We have unfinished work this year, but you come into the season with all the props. How do you kind of, as a coach, as a player, enter a season with that thinking?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because I think it's a balance, because when you have such a loaded roster, one thing that this team's had in the past is great chemistry, great culture. And to have these players, you're going to have guys on the bench that could be starting and not playing. So how are you going to manage that roster, keep everybody happy, and keep the chemistry in the clubhouse between all the players if somebody's not playing? And I think that says a lot about the roster and the players, and that's when the experience of the older players is going to take over, because they're going to manage that. And yes, the expectations are extremely high, and rightfully so. And when you come that close at the end, it's a tough pill to swallow. But with this roster and the numbers and the arms that they have, I mean, it's going to be tough, but they're going to play the same way, whether they're ranked number one or they're not ranked at all. They're going to play their game, and they're just going to do their thing and let the chips fall.
What was the highest preseason ranking you remember for when you played?
Actually, I think we may have been number one in 86, but then we went 0-6 and got knocked out.
Wow, so, really?
I think that's how we started the season, I believe. But that would be the highest. Otherwise, there was probably a lot of no ranks in there.
So do you remember any of the mindset coming into that season where you were number one, and the work that was being done entering into that season?
I think we might have taken it different than the guys that are taking it now. They weren't around. Most of these guys, probably none of them were born when we were playing. But, I think we may have let that get to our head a little bit. And these guys, they don't. They embrace it, but they don't shy away from it either. And they're not out there shouting from the rooftops, hey, we're number one. They're just going to embrace it, take it, and then play their game and do their thing. And I think that's the best way to do it. And it says a lot about the coaching staff and the roster that they've put together.
Scott, when you're starting a season, obviously there's the mindset of how you tackled getting ready for it. But how do you navigate the first part of the year, first few series, as you're trying to get in a groove and set things up for SEC play?
Well, I mean, as a player, I mean, you're ready to play all the time. You're used to that. I mean, as a coach, they're trying to figure out the lineup, who's going to go where. They have a really good idea of how it's going to be run, but you still got to feel your way through. Who's going to step up from the bullpen? Who's going to be that closer? Who's going to be that middle relief? Who's a third, fourth starter? I don't know where everything stands right now, but you just prepare. They've been doing it. They've been playing baseball a long time, so they're ready. I think they're prepared. It's kind of second nature to them. And, you had some guys that didn't play in the fall, and people are like, well, they didn't play in the fall because they were nursing some injuries and trying to get healthy. And those guys are going to pick up where they left off. They've been doing it for a long time. So I don't think it's going to be that difficult.
How difficult is it when you've been waiting for this moment all year long in that first series, right? Like to make sure you don't allow one bad outing, let's just say, to become 2-3, because it is the early part of the season. And also not to allow a hot game to kind of like, hey, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's you don't want to let it get away from you or take it too casually at the beginning. I mean, you still got to come out there and play like it's the last game of the season. And I don't think anybody's ever been more excited than our fans to have Elon to finally come to town, right? And so people are excited. The players are ready to go. They say all the right things, but they also show it on the field, show it off the field that they're prepared, they're ready, and just to be ready. And it's difficult to wait that long because they had such a great season last year, and it's tough on the fans too. The fans are ready. I mean, it's going to be an electric atmosphere, and the fans are ready. 12th man's ready, and it's going to be great. And the guys are going to be ready, but they're chomping at the bit to get started. You know that for sure.
Scott, we appreciate your time, buddy. Can't wait to actually talk about the games here that are now starting in, just next week.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, by the way, tell people what they can find on the Ball 5 podcast.
Oh, anywhere you listen to your podcast, it's on there. So you'll find it. Ball 5 podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Scotty. Take care, buddy.
Thanks.
Scott Livingstone there on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with an open segment. Get to some text messages. If you're thinking about baseball, like what is your mindset entering this year, considering the last few months, right? The way the season ended, the coaching change, the players staying, the number one ranking. Like, are you like me that I don't worry as much with baseball as I do with other sports because of the guys that they have, right? And what they've been able to do. But I also understand, that number one ranking, like, how do you maintain it throughout the year? Just, again, there's going to be ups and downs throughout the season. That's part of playing in the SEC. How do they maintain that top 10 kind of ranking and make business and take care of business when it comes to the postseason? We'll hit a break. We'll get into that. And of course, more basketball talk here on TexAgs Live. Milliken Reserve Time, farm to table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature. And they've done so by treading lightly on the beautiful land that you can find in Milliken Reserve on, creating a sanctuary for family, for nature, and for community. They've got 2,600 acres of open space and 30 miles of trails and homes, and they got farms there, and they want to connect families to nature and to each other. Just make out the drive there to Milliken Reserve and enjoy being in the outdoors, hiking, biking, canoeing, kayaking, you name it. You can do it all there at Milliken Reserve. They have evening yoga. They got the summer camps. They got the music festivals. They got farmer markets and farm tours, and they're committed to maintaining and restoring that natural habitat where you can find all the animals you can imagine. The website is easy to remember, millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. Go check it out. As a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50, but right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. It's time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandystatebank.com. And with that, we have Kay Naegeli.
How about the Diamond Sports getting underway this week? Trish Ford's Aggies on Thursday will open their 2025, highly anticipated 2025 season.
And who has her in studio the day before?
Heck yeah, David Nuño does.
And who's joining me for that interview?
I believe I will be.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, we are so excited about Trisha Ford and her program. She has 3 preseason all-conference players. I mean, that team should make some noise, hopefully, in conference play and in postseason. Like I said, they will open with Utah State. The Aggies in the Aggie Classic on Thursday. Going to be a lot of Aggies. Moving over to the hardwood, let's talk some men's basketball and then women's basketball. South Carolina hung around, but Texas A&M was able to pull out the win in Columbia. That is back-to-back conference victories for Buzz Willams and co. They will have a midweek bye this week before heading to Missouri, also Columbia, on this upcoming Saturday. And then, fortunately, last night, number 5 Texas controlled Sunday's edition of the Lone Star Showdown as Texas A&M fell to 10-11 on the year. Again, they are just with 8 players they're playing with. Aisha Coulibaly went down against LSU. Just wasn't a great offensive showing for them. Their next opportunity to end their 3-game slide comes on Thursday. They will head to Auburn, and that tip-off is set for 6 p.m. I want to move over to the Lynx. A&M men's golf will start their spring journey with the Sea Best Invitational. They will be traveling to Florida for that. This guy over here is having all the head coaches on, and we've heard a lot about that, so it's great to hear from them. Moving over to women's tennis, they claimed their 60th, yes, I said 60, consecutive win at home, sweeping Sam Houston. Absolutely domination from that program. I mean, Mark Weaver and company, we expect nothing less. They will host Pepperdine on this upcoming Sunday. Moving over to the men's tennis side, they fell to Pepperdine 6-1. They will stay on the road and travel to Columbus, Ohio to face number 3 Ohio State. That should be a tough one for them. Moving over to track and field, A&M's Cooper Cathraw, Jaya Covington, and Alexander Slavov broke school records on Saturday to cap off the dominant showings. That team split travel. They were in New Mexico and then also at the John Thomas Terrier Classic up in Boston. They had doubled down on standout showings. They had 3 school records, like I said, won 7 events and logged 10 all-time marks and secured 15 PRs. So that program just continues and continues to get better. Moving over to equestrian, Texas A&M fell to number 7 SMU 13-6, and they will remain on the road heading to South Carolina. And last but not least, some swimming diving. Unfortunately, the A&M swimming and diving program dropped its contest, the men and the women, to Texas, which that results in Texas both getting a point, men's and women's, into the Lone Star Showdown class point total. So unfortunately, hopefully we can make up some ground in baseball. We do not play Texas in softball, so baseball will have to get it done.
Represent, okay? Thank you very much.
Of course.
Appreciate you. We go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carter, what do you have for us, young man?
Yes, so John in Cyprus, talking about baseball, says Caden Sorrell is the best hitter on the baseball team and will be our MVP. Funny how people are overlooking him.
Yeah, and it's weird because I don't know if people are overlooking him. Well, no, I think some are overlooking him. But Bronny mentioned him, I believe it was last week, about like the kind of, season expectations they have for him. And just what he was able to do last year when he was getting hot. So is he going to be the best player on the team? Is that how he phrased it? Or
he said the best hitter on the team will be our MVP.
If he's the best hitter on the team, and Jace has a typical year, and Gavin has a typical year, and Wyatt Hensler has the kind of year that we expect, and Gavin Cash has the kind of year that we expect, sign me up, right? That would be amazing. So not a bad thought at all, John. What else do you have?
So we have Wendy in College Station saying she heard a baseball podcast say the following: I'm all in on A&M because there isn't a better player-led team out there. Their coach checked out in May last year, and those guys willed themselves to the final game of the season, and most of them are coming back. I love that.
Read that last line again. Their coach what?
Their coach checked out in May last year, and those guys willed themselves to the final game of the season, and most of them are coming back.
If that is the case, if their coach checked out in May of last year, and that team was on the doorstep of a national championship, just watch the bleep out, right? Like,
I know.
Watch out, because I'll tell you who's not going to check out. That's Michael Early.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I can guarantee you that. And this team, look, they've heard, they've seen, they felt it, the drama of what we all went through in June of last year, right? Like, again, can you imagine an offseason where you didn't have a coaching change, where you were knocking on the doorstep of a national championship, how that eats at you, right? How close you were. You were leading in the prior game, right? Like, and how much that would eat it. Throw in, your coach leaves you for another program, the rival, and he wants you to go, and you don't go. And like what you've been thinking about since that point. Now, look, one thing is to stew over it. The other thing is to be able to perform at that level. This team continues to perform at a very high level. This nucleus of players have set the tone for this program to be in a great spot for the next generation and the generation after that.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about this team being hungry. You know, obviously the preseason #1 team, you know, that title can get in your head, but, you know, this team is going to be hungry from opening day to the final team.
They should be. They've got the most coming back, and they're player-led, right? It doesn't mean they're going to win a national championship. I like their chances. I like being in the conversation. I want to be in the conversation now. I want to be in the conversation when SEC play starts. I want to be in conversation after SEC play, right? Like, let's just be in the conversation, and then I believe when it matters, this team will be able to put up the kind of numbers expected. All right, we'll do this. We will hit a break here on TexAgs Live. When we come back on TexAgs Live, we're going to talk to Buzz Williams. All right, we'll talk with Buzz about the win over South Carolina, a little bit of a break heading into the game against Missouri, and then Billy's going to be with us, obviously, to break down some of the stuff we talked about on the Luchador podcast. And tomorrow, I guess I can tell the people, Rosh Raitt will start his hits.
Love it.
On the show at 9:35. Rosh Raitt. If you're not familiar with his game, he's really good at talking about sports. So we'll have him tomorrow at 9:35. But today at 9:35 is Buzz Williams. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. They have a great selection of commercial vehicles with surface body trucks and flatbed trucks and several medium-duty trucks for those heavier jobs. And they are just the place to go when you're looking for a vehicle in the Brazos Valley. And really, even if you're not in the Brazos Valley, they're going to take amazing care of you with an outstanding selection and also just the customer service that they have. But they're stocking up on new vehicles for a wide selection of those vehicles. You can take a short drive to save money without any dealer add-ons, plus free oil changes on every new or pre-owned vehicle for purchase. Also, they have a business elite dealer program, so they can help you get vehicles for all of your small business or commercial needs. Reach out to them, and they'll help you get your business right and going. All right, it is Caldwell Country Chevrolet, about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. TexAgs Live back here on the Zone and, of course, on the CW and YouTube and TexAgs.com. Billy Liucci in studio. Let's talk about an Aggie victory in men's basketball against South Carolina. We go to the Buppy's Catering hotline. That's where we find Buzz Williams. Buzz, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank
Buzz,
you. Thank you for joining the show.
I'm going to ask a question. I don't know if well, first of all, I am prepared for your answer because you saved me from hearing Nuño tell me about the ways of the samurai.
Bushido. The Bushido.
Oh, the Bushido.
Yeah.
So this is a welcome call, but I am curious for someone as schedule oriented as you. We did it 30 minutes early today. I don't know. I mean, I was thrown off. You got me out of bed a half hour early.
Yes, sir. I apologize. I apologize that I changed the schedule. Thank you for allowing it. But I also apologize that I didn't allow you to know soon enough. I planned, we plan a month in advance, and obviously we have the midweek bye week, and so we planned this like in the first week of January, and for some reason I screwed up on Friday. I was 30 minutes late to media availability because in the plan I had messed up an hour. And then everybody's kind of doing a different thing. It started after the game on Saturday night in regards to how we handled Sunday, what we're doing recruiting-wise, what our staff responsibilities are this week because it's a little different. We're doing some self-scouting. So my meeting schedule is a little different for us, and it's a little different relative to our opponent. So just because of how today's going to unfold, tomorrow and Wednesday, I've shifted some things around. So I appreciate and I apologize you had to get up a little early.
Well, I'm kidding, obviously. But that said, now before we talk about this past week, let's talk about this bye week, this game off schedule here. How much did your team need this? Because I've heard you reference it a couple times, and just getting here, and I mean, I don't know. It seems perfectly timed being at the actual midway point, but how happy are you to have this time, or do you not like the schedule getting interrupted in such a way?
Yeah, probably both. To your point, and I think, and I've said it publicly a few times, not from a complaining standpoint, but every week of January was a different week for our program. 1 week we played Wednesday, Saturday. 1 week we played Tuesday, Saturday. The next week, Wednesday, Saturday. The next week, Tuesday, Saturday. And so what ends up happening is when every week going into the next week you're changing, it means your program's working 9 consecutive days in a row. And we did that 2 different times. And so our routine stayed the same, but the rhythm of our routine alternated per week. And that's that happened more to us. It happened every single week. It did not happen like that to any other team in the league. Again, not complaining, just talking about the rhythm of our routine. January was very clunky because 1 week it would be 9 days, it would be this, and then the following 7 days it would be something different. Our guys handled that with incredible maturity. I do think when you win, particularly on the road, going into your bye, that's a lot of fun. And I also think coming into February, every week in February, we're going to play Tuesday, Saturday. And so from a timing standpoint, that means we'll be off every Wednesday in the month of February. And from a rhythm standpoint, I think relative to how we operate, we're kind of excited about that. It'll start changing again in March, but there's only 3 games in March. So I think we have planned how we're going to use the time in a good way for our kids physically. It'll be really healthy for them mentally and emotionally just to have a 2-hour break here and not have to receive content. We spend a lot of time. If we work, as you know, we start our day in the film room, even on game day. And so for our guys to have a 3-day break that'll be different just in that regard. I think it'll be good. We're going to end up having practice tomorrow morning so that even on the days that we're working, it feels a little different. So I think we've thought through it. We've met about it several times so I can hear different perspectives. I included some of our group that I rely on our team for decisions like that. And so I anticipate it'll be a good week for us.
But sometimes I think Henry is a forgotten guy when we just talk about Wade doing this and Zurich doing that and Pharrell. But, I mean, Henry, the last couple games, his presence not only at the free throw line, but I saw a stat that when he plays over 20 minutes, he's a 12-7 player. Just talk about Henry's steadiness and what he brings, especially in late game moments.
Yeah, and I think I've said it a couple of times to you, Nuño, early in the year. Analytically, he was through the roof. And I think Solo's injury and the decision to move him where he started at the 4 was healthy for Gochi. It was the right time for Gochi. H's injury and moving Mo in, those are all good players. We're probably utilizing them in the past week in a different way. The minutes were dispersed for sure differently. Obviously, Solo didn't play in either game. H played in Columbia. And so I like it. I like how some of that unfolded. The one thing that I told Henry on Thursday morning at Early Bird that I sincerely appreciate is his responsibilities on both sides of the ball when he's at the, quote, 4 versus his responsibilities on both sides of the ball when he's at the 5. They're distinctly different. And against Oklahoma, a team who's basically playing all the time with 4 guards, and some of the time against us, they played with 5. I thought him being able to execute his responsibilities regardless of the position, outstanding. He has the ability to do that. What I thought was key was his communication level in real time to his teammates, because what we do 1 through 4 defensively is completely different than what we do 1 through 5. And so if Henry's on the floor at the 4 and never comes off the floor and we sub Gochi out and put Andy in, now Henry's at the 5 and he's yet to come off the floor. And our coverages are different with the 5. And I thought his communication was like perfect. And I thought our guys receiving that in real time, I thought we did a really good job actually in both games. They're 2 different complected teams in how they play and how they score. But yes, Henry's been producing at a high rate, but there's some intangible things that I also think are helping our other guys produce at a high rate as well.
And Buzz, we're talking about Henry and Gochi, Pharrell Payne, and I thought his contribution Saturday night was really a lot. It felt watching the game, and I was watching it without sound, so it's interesting when you do that. You're not getting skewed by whoever you're listening to. I just was watching it and felt like his impact was a lot more even than what is a solid box score. 8 points. He had the 3 rebounds, that big block there late. But, man, it just felt like when he was in the game, at the time he was in the game, he was a real steadying force. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe some of that time was when Wade was resting. But I just felt like there was a stretch there where South Carolina was trying to make a run, and he consistently you guys were able to keep them at arm's length.
It's kind of sneaky, and I'm starting to pick up on it over the last 2.5 weeks. He's in a growth spurt now,
really?
And his joy, his energy, like he's starting to put several things together. And I'm not just talking about his talent and his physicality, but like there's a lot of dots starting to connect for him on both sides of the floor, and like his ability to articulate, hey, coach, now this is connected to this. And I think he's doing a lot of things, and our guys are seeing some of that same stuff. And I think that's only kind of inflating his confidence level because he's having fun for the first time as a college basketball player. Man, he is for sure talented, and he gives us things that nobody else on the roster gives us.
Talking to Buzz Williams here on TexAgs Live. Buzz, I've given you credit for this every year I've covered you because I think you're a master at finding a deficiency and fixing it mid-season. And I know free throws are always going to be, a situation that it's, can you hit them at the end of the game? But when you guys hit 70%, you're 5-0. Just talk about the growth from the free throw percentage here in the last few games and what you've seen from the guys leading up to the games.
I'll give you a sneak peek on what I'm going to talk to our guys about on Early Bird on Thursday. We've attempted more free throws than anybody in the league.
Really?
That's a really good number that's a really good number after 9 games. Now, for sure, the elephant in the room is that we need to make more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I will say is in the 2 games last week, we won both games because of our free throw make number, the volume, but also the percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Four, when it was happening, Four has not missed 2 free throws in a row this year. And I would have to look back in history to see when it happened. I said, hey man, I would have literally bet my check if I believed in betting that you were going to make both. It would have never occurred to me that you were going to miss both. Mm-hmm. Jace has the yips. Everybody knows it, including Jace. I thought he made some really, really winning, tough man impact plays the last 5 minutes of the game that changed the complexion of the game. I really wish he would have made one that would have turned, if he could have made a gimme putt, I think that would have helped his juice. But to his credit, of the 2 that he missed, 4 missed 2, Mo missed 1. That was 5 of the 9 that we missed. But for us to make 21 on the road, coming off of we made 29 at home and shot 83%, what we've got to do over the next 4 weeks is we've got to continue to get fouled at that rate, but we've got to continue to make strides in our percentage because we're leaving a lot of empty possessions relative to our talent and our roster construction and how we play. We're going to get fouled. But now you got to get fouled, and you obviously we need to continue to make them at the rate that we did this past week, and that's going to be one of the emphasis, and it has been an emphasis. Like I always tell our guys, we need to anticipate and address solutions before they ever become a problem. And I do think we're constantly aware, not just free throw percentage. We want to address and anticipate solutions before they're a problem. You look at what happened with us in the last 3 weeks of games. We were 232nd in defensive rebounding. 232nd after we played at Kentucky. And after we played South Carolina, we're 96. That's a journey in 6 games to be able to accrue that much difference, but that's why our defense total is now ranked 7th, because the thing that was jamming our numbers up is we were 232 in defensive rebounding. We were doing a lot of good things before the ball was shot, but we got to conclude the possession, and our guys have received that. It's a credit to them, and we've got to continue to find themes where we can adjust and perform better.
Buzz, we appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Have a good day.
Buzz, who wins Super Bowl Sunday? Sunday. You lost him. You cut me out. I wanted to see who his pick was.
You're acting like you were surprised I was going to go to break there.
It's just you roboted your way to break.
So I should have.
Great answer, but
did you know why?
Well,
we don't have time for another.
I've gone out of my way to destroy it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's over.
Mission accomplished.
When we come back on TexAgs Live, a 32-second segment, that and more. Actually, not. It's TexAgs.
So what happened there, Nick?
Got a lot of things to manage back here. You know how it goes.
Big time manager. I miscalculated. We're going to have 1:30 to come back. I thought it was going to be 42 seconds. And now we actually do have 42 seconds. So it worked out. Carter, do you have something, a thought, a text? You can make one up, bro. Just say, yeah, Billy says the Aggie basketball team, they're just going to keep on winning.
I agree with that one. I mean, A&M basketball's got to keep on winning. That's what I like. That's what everyone else likes. So,
yes, when we come back on TexAgs Live, I do want to follow up on a couple things we touched on the Luchador.
Okay.
Different perspectives. Got to go deeper into Aggie basketball. And then some stuff happening around college football. You know, Ryan Grubb going back to Alabama. We'll just talk some other college basketball, or excuse me, college football things. We'll get into that.
A good little hour.
Good
baseball weekend this weekend. It was fun. We'll talk everything.
The Livingstone.
I want to talk a little more about hoops too, because they might have a bye this week, but it's starting to get. Look, we're halfway through SEC play. We're starting to get rolling. 8-7, panicking Nuño.
No, I don't care. You can keep talking.
And go.
We're gone. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I want to get into something Billy said to me a moment ago. Not that, look, we're going to talk some football this segment. But, Nick, I don't know if you were part of this discussion earlier, but apparently Bronny and Zane were making fun of me for saying that I was a warrior in the first segment. Did you hear that?
I didn't know.
I didn't say I was a warrior. I said I was a worrier. There's a difference. Would you agree that I'm a worrier?
Yes.
I understand how it sounds like warrior when I say it, though. I do see. I do.
Warrior.
You say it similarly, too.
Yeah.
But I said I was a worrier when it comes to Aggie sports. My voice cracked there. That was nice. And that is a fact. I am a worrier. But if I thought I was a warrior, I wouldn't say it. But I think I would be the warrior in the office. Sorry. You can talk, Nick. You're allowed to.
Well, I mean, I'm not into when Billy Liucci's walking into the studio.
Yes, he is. So I do want to talk some of the things that if you haven't gone back to listen to the Luchador yet, go back and listen. We spent a whole hour going through all the position groups in depth. And one of the questions that Billy asked me that he answered as well was like, I forgot how you phrased it, but impact players next year is how you. And I wanted to ask you, Billy. It's a similar question, but not like impact players that we're expecting or could be. Like, I want to ask you, like, if this guy makes a sizable jump, then what? Okay, so if I were to throw you okay, Marcel Reed. If he makes a sizable jump, if DJ Hicks makes a sizable, and it doesn't have to be people we've already relied on. It could be a guy that we haven't thought of. If whomever makes a sizable jump, then what? And I kind of wanted to go through that mindset for a few minutes.
Well, and I'll start with it's funny because after doing that thing, I got multiple texts from people that didn't know like so-and-so was even back and didn't know. So we might need to just straight up like ask if somebody's back, we'll answer because I got several. And, yes. And I think I misled on a tweet because I said A&M was returning essentially 6 O-line starters, and that threw people off because if you start counting up, that doesn't math up with Coley's back as well.
Right.
So there's really 7 starters. You count Naboo and Coley and Crownover and Fathery. I mean, 7 guys that have started a lot of college football, a lot of ball here. Heck, Naboo might be the least experienced, and he's a guy that's that won a starting job last year at center. And was a guy they were really counting on, and then Coley stepped in and did great. E.J. Smith is another one. A lot of people thought that if you looked at his years at Stanford and you just assumed. Another one, we talk about kicker, punter, holder. Jacob Graham's back. Another one of your specialists there. So there's a lot of confusion with this COVID year stuff.
With all of college football.
And just the way college football is now. It's almost like if guys start wanting to play 7, we say start, they get the Miami tight end that was in like, year 9?
Mm-hmm.
So, never trust your own judgment when it comes to who you think's out of eligibility.
Is Cam Rising? Isn't he like 8 years?
Cam Rising's another one.
Yeah.
There's I forget who. I think Cam Rising came in with Trevor Lawrence. It's something crazy like that. Like I'm barely exaggerating. Getting very distracted here. Allie doesn't know her way around.
She just almost tripped over all the wires. Too. That would have
been bad.
That would have been hilarious.
So going back to, thank you, Alopecia. Alopecia. So, Alopecia.
Grammys were on last night. Sorry, go ahead.
I did watch some of it.
I couldn't. I tried.
I just don't want to go, but
anyway,
I did watch some. I'll say this: it's weird. They're always weird. Like Kanye's girl, what she wore to it was disgraceful.
That outfit, I did notice.
I'm not like conservative. Like people can dress how they want, but 2 things that really affected me, where it drew some sort of emotion, was okay. Look, the woman looked amazing.
Oh, I just noticed her hair. I didn't know
the dress was in like you wear that in public and people see that like kids are watching the Grammys and it's too much. Like why? And it's like everyone just keeps trying to push this envelope And the worst one,
Did you see what Kanye was dressed as? He was dressed as a priest.
No, I didn't notice. I didn't even notice that.
I think he had the little white thing and everything.
I didn't notice that. There was a kid, by the way, there was a kid in like junior high that thought he was breaking in some kind of new style shirt. And it was like one of those collars that's just like this, like an inch around.
Yeah.
And then it was a different color, like maybe about right here in the middle. And so, unfortunately, I said he looked like a priest, but a doctor. Like you couldn't tell which, because the shirt was kind of like a scrub material. Yeah. And so, poor dude had the nickname for like all through high school, Proctor. Just because of one shirt choice.
The priest doctor, the
in
proctor.
In 7th grade, he was the proctor. But
did you see the lady who won the rap artist of the year? She was wearing a house for each pant.
Okay,
it was like
Will Smith's kid. And
he was wearing a castle.
Yeah, that was the stupidest SH I've ever seen in my life, and it's a shame to me. And maybe he's got the I know all the room but the fact that you have created some space where this kid thought this was
a good look,
or just what would have to be, in my opinion, in your head to say, I'm going to wear a black castle,
Grayskull,
on my head. Yeah, like a toy you had in the 80s, on my head to an award show, because just dressing nice or dressing, with flair or whatever you want to do is not enough. So I'm going to put a castle on my head and walk around in that. And whatever led him up to that point frightens me.
I was concerned with his peripheral vision. I don't think he could see to his left or right.
Imagine if you're sitting behind that guy at an award show.
Can't see. I can't see.
Sir, can you remove the castle from your head, please?
Hey, and you know what was shocking to me? Well, I am Mr. Country Music, but that I knew more country acts than I knew any of the pop artists, and more country acts than I knew of the rap team. And I go to the meetings.
You go to a lot of meetings.
I do. I'm
Hunt
busy.
meetings, rap meetings, country music meetings. Yeah. Are you sure you're invited to these things, or you just pop in?
Sometimes I show up. Yeah.
You're like, hey, guys. Yeah, I mean, look, this stuff's gone completely off the rails. And you can say what you want about, like Beyonce was long overdue, but country music, maybe album of the year. I don't know about country. But album of the year, great. I actually liked a lot of those songs. Also, though, it's hard for me. Well, I guess Taylor Swift, popularity of the album, but I thought her music was actually really good this year. Pardon me for saying that, but I know a lot of the girls in the back agree with me on that one. But enough of the Grammy talk. Although, like the Kendrick Lamar thing, too, when you've got a whole room full of celebrities and Hollywood types screaming out the lyrics to that song, and when it's about like Drake, like he's done his share of dishing it out, but that felt like peak Hollywood music industry, like almost like, not to say bullying because he's dished out plenty himself, but you talk about like a whole industry versus one. Dude's in Australia right now. And
Kendrick performed last night? I had already turned it off.
No, he won a bunch of awards for the song, the diss track of Drake, where he's making some pretty volatile, heinous accusations.
Euphoria? Was that the one that won or the other one?
Not Like Us, or whatever.
Not Like Us.
Album,
So good.
So
good.
Anyway, I thought it was crazy. Don't worry, guys.
We got breaking news.
If you're panicking, we will come back and I will add 7 or 8 minutes on the back end of this.
We have breaking news. Nick just reported to me he got an ESPN alert that Myles Garrett has demanded or asked for a trade.
He requested a trade
from the Browns.
Wow. Cleveland in shambles. Although right now they're probably okay. The Cavs are doing pretty good, but they're in shambles at that news because that's all they have. I mean, I feel like that's all they've got in that football team to take pride in and to hang their hat on. And probably smart by Myles Garrett. He is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. And he can do that, I think, with his whole career in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
He can do that without a playoff win. He can do that because he's not a quarterback, but you're that great of a player. You're the best at your position this decade. Probably. Like, I'm trying to think, like, in this decade.
In the 2020s.
In the 2020s, I think he's the best. Like, there might be somebody
He
better.
and TJ Watt are the two,
like,
right?
is Micah Parsons better when he's healthy right now today? I don't know. Is TJ Watt, it's TJ Watt and Miles. And I think, well, TJ's pretty damn special too, but he's one of the best, if not the best, at his position. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The guy deserves to voice how he feels and say, hey, I want more than just padding the stat sheet. He might love the Cleveland Browns and the dog pound, but like, I want more. I want to experience winning. And I hate to say it, he didn't experience that at A&M either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what did they really do in his 3 years here? I don't think they accomplished anything. Obviously, they didn't play for an SEC title. The Aggies have not done that. He got here after the year after Johnny, so he didn't play in a high-profile bowl game. So Miles, whereas the Aggies were not the Cleveland Browns, and I think he's been to maybe one playoff with Cleveland, but he has not experienced winning. So, yeah, I mean, I feel for the guy in that he's so great at what he does. If he wants to be a part of something more meaningful than just being a part of like a good defense, then yeah, I think he should say that and start getting vocal, because you look up, you spend your whole career there on Lake Erie, and it's over, and you're going to the Hall of Fame, and he might feel a lot of what if, and kind of like a little bit of emptiness in terms of what his team accomplished. So good for Miles. I hope they oblige, because two things, you can get a lot out of him, and Cleveland has so much more to fix before they can truly be any kind of contender. Maybe, and we'll talk about a trade here in a minute, I'm sure, but maybe they can get a lot from Miles.
That level of player
that'll help them become a better organization.
Draft picks. Yep. I would love for him to end up in Texas. That would be fantastic because I think it would give Cowboys something to excited about. But
that would be awesome.
And the Texans, we can win a Super Bowl with him. All right, back to the original point of this segment, which was, if this player makes a sizable leap, then what? Okay? And is there a particular position group you'd like to start with, Billy, or do you want me just to start throwing your names?
Let
me just say, if Terry Bussey makes a sizable leap at wide receiver, if he plays wide receiver, I know that's still, he could potentially go back to cornerback, but if he makes a sizable leap, then what?
If Terry Bussey makes a sizable leap with what you brought in with Craver and Concepcion, then I think this is going to be a really, really nice receiving core. It's going to take more than just that.
Yep.
3 is not enough at that position. But if those are your top 3, that could be a pretty exceptional group right there. 1, 2, 3. Probably the best top 3 if Bussey makes that leap. Probably the best top 3 A&M's had. I don't think at any point in the Jimbo era did they have anything better than that. If you look at what Craver flashed as a true freshman last year and what Concepcion's done at NC State, and then what you're talking about with Bussey, which is you look at his highlight tape and then you take that to another level, and it's like, okay, if he makes that step. When was the last time A&M's had 3 really, really good ones? It probably Josh Reynolds, Christian Kirk, and whoever. I can't remember who was the third of some of those bunches, but the overlap of Reynolds, Kirk, and I would almost say whoever the third was, because Christian was so good, and Josh was so good too. So since then, but you look back, I mean, it's damn near it's 6 years under Jimbo. I think Josh was, Christian's last year was Sumlin's last year. He played in that bowl game against Wake. So it's 6 years under Jimbo, a year under Elko. It's 7, 8 years probably since you had both of those guys plus the rest of the receiving corps. So at least 8 years since, that's if Bussey makes that jump. And if you're asking me at that position, who making that leap has the biggest impact, I would say it's undoubtedly him, without question.
Is there someone on the offensive line that you could see taking a huge leap that would make a very good offensive line that much better?
Yeah, it's part of me wants to say Naboo, but he hasn't played enough for me to know what, because he was a true freshman, then he was hurt game one. It's Demetrius Crownover.
Mm-hmm.
Because and Fathery is such a valuable component of this thing, and probably quietly, Ruben Fathery might have been one of the most improved players on the team last year. And it's hard to say that because he came out so good as a true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the NBA. You have comeback player of the year. That to me last fall was Ruben Fathery, was Deuce. I still look at Crownover in his upside in terms of what he could be at 25 years old in the NFL. And it's not guaranteed. He's got to work to get there. He's still a long ways off from that. But we've watched a guy just get a little better each year, a little better. He was a guy that played a lot of positions in high school because he was so big and athletic. He grew out of tight end, DN into a true tackle early on, but was still there was so much of a learning curve for him. I think he's so far past that now, and he's experienced. Like if there's a guy with a ceiling that we don't talk about enough on this team, it might be Crownover. So again, that's not guaranteed. But if you were talking about if these guys make that step, that leap, he's one that could have the biggest effect, I think, on the offensive line.
Is there a tight end that you think could take the sizable leap and really impact?
First of all, there's not many options to talk about besides Theo in terms of taking a leap because you're bringing in
Black potentially, right?
But you're bringing in three guys from
other places.
So I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I think Theo, man, if they could just get him, and he's come so far. And it's, man, when you come in and you're playing football in Europe and in Sweden like he was, you are so far behind when you get to college. Like I don't care that it was American football. And they played American football, I believe. Jordan Moko came over and their football wasn't even, it was some like bastardized version of American. So he didn't even know what the hash marks were when he got here. I remember them talking about that. He had no idea what the hashes were and what they, what their impact was on the game and where the ball was snapped, all that stuff. But Theo had such an uphill climb. He had some real moments, like plays, a couple big time plays and catches, but also some real high moments. And he had a tough moment at Auburn, came back, the week before that actually was his best game against New Mexico State. He went off, and you see the plays he can make vertically in the passing game with that frame and athleticism. But if he can just get like the understanding, the footwork down of the blocking, and just get a little more of like, man, I'm a grown ass man now. Now I'm in my fourth year of college. I am bigger, stronger than most of the guys they're asking me to block. And I'm more than athletic enough to do it as well. So it's just, I think, more of like an understanding and a mentality that like I can throw people around and I need to understand that and do it. And if he gets there, that could be the thing. He's a wild card. And I think you mentioned Black. He was little used in Austin this year. Gunnar Helm obviously was terrific tight end this season, which credit him because he came in after Jatavion Sanders. And look, what Texas did at the tight end position is what A&M needs. Like, I want to see that. I'm ready to see where A&M loses. They lose these D linemen that are going to the NFL draft, and we look up next year and go, damn, you know what? The D line might have been better. And I'm not saying it's going to be, but that's what I want to see. Yep. That's what I want to see happen at multiple positions on the field. But with Amari, he didn't play last year because they didn't need him. And a veteran in Juan Davis kind of came into his own and said, no, I've been biding my time. This is my spot, which is another thing that winning teams have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start seeing guys where we go, I wasn't expecting him to hold him off, that's when you start knowing you're in a good place. So to me, he would have played for them this year. I don't know to what capacity, but I think it would have been a lot more than this past year. Just if he becomes the guy he looked like he was at Bama with the 20 catches, 300-something yards, and several touchdowns, that would be a massive impact at the tight end spot.
Let's do defense on the other side.
Because running back is what it is.
Yep.
We talked a lot about running back on Saturday, and it is I guess the one you talk about is Reuben Owens. That's the quick answer because he missed pretty much all season last year except the bowl game. And so Reuben Owens at 100%, and now in year 3 in the program, like that could be the impact guy you're talking about that makes a huge difference, especially as you're going to be in the early portions of the season at least, easing Le'Veon Moss back into full speed ahead.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll do the defense on the other side. We'll still talk some basketball, try to get some baseball talk as well. Right now, we're talking Bird Dog. They're an Aggie-owned company that's creating access to hunting opportunities. I want you to think about them being an Airbnb for hunting experiences. They'll set it all up for you, the logistics, the lodging, you name it. All you have to do is worry about the fellowship with your good buddies. So if you're into like going out and hunting, if you're trying to learn, or if you're a seasoned hunter, let them take care for you. And if you are a ranch owner, let them find you money on your land, not only by bringing hunters to your land, but they find some tax benefits for you as well. If you're farming or running cattle on your land, Bird Dog will optimize and find you those tax benefits. Some of their clients are making an extra $100 to $500 per acre of land. They can be your personal consultant and help you maximize the income on your land. So if you're a ranch broker, you need to talk to them as they can help your buyer or your seller understand additional ways to make money. The website is birddogit.com. That is birddogit.com. Check it out.
TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, continuing our dialogue about if this player takes this big step up, then what? We did the offense in the prior segment. Let's look at the defense, and we'll start with the defensive line. Billy, I mean, I think DJ Hicks is the name that we talked about Saturday, but is there a name on this list, on the interior side?
I think Hicks has to.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's a world where Regis and can be those your anchors inside, but I still think even if that's a big part of the answer and that really helps you versus the run, and if a veteran and a redshirt senior from Iowa State ends up making that kind of impact where he's an all SEC caliber guy, let's say, I still think there's a spotlight on DJ Hicks. Who's your super active interior guy with the quickness to make, to really blow things up and be the big disruptive force in there? And I think that's what DJ Hicks could be and should be. And I think that's what he was recruited to be. And he's flashed it. And I think he's that guy. So I think he is the guy that's the wild card, not wild card, but like if he takes that big step, like if this season is that bridge season between what we've seen from him in an NFL career, it's this fall, and it'll be pretty damn impactful. It's also hard. I mentioned him yesterday. It's hard to leave out Rylan Kennedy. I expect a certain something out of Cassius Howell. I expect Cassius Howell to be a consistent, disruptive force off the edge. Very hard to block. You not just me. You talk to football people. You talk to people inside the building when they signed him. And they got him out of Bowling Green. Like, hey, no one's talking about this guy, but he's going to have a real impact this year, and he did. Man, he had damn near game-changing plays against South Carolina that got called back. Here's the one against you. Well, that's a different one against USC. That's a sack there, but he also had the tip and interception. I think Cassius Howell is a guy that I fully expect to make a giant leap going into next season. But the guy that if I expect that out of Cassius and Rylan Kennedy, that dude's talent level is off the charts. And you talk to the players and they talk about his athleticism is freakish, him on like the basketball court. And he showed it in football games this fall as well. But I expect Cassius as a veteran that's played a lot of football now, a lot at A&M, but also at Bowling Green. If Rylan comes into his own with the transfers, this defensive end position has a chance. I think it is the most unknown position on the football field. I think it is the most unknown position on the field when we talk about who's playing next year, right? Look, at D-tackle, Regis, Hicks, and Oyedem, those three guys are going to be a big part. There's going to be 1, 2, 3 inside, and they're going to have to figure out the rest of the depth there. But at end, there's the two I mentioned. You've got, TJ Searcy from Florida. You've got Sam Mpemba from Georgia, who a lot of people are already talking about. You got Solomon Williams, who I talked about, a guy that they're still really excited about. And then you've got a freshman in Marco Jones, who is out there across the street hitting bombs. I know Bronny's going to post a note about that today. We went out there the other day, and he's just him in the on deck circle. You're like, okay, that's the guy that plays football. I mean, but he looks like, like a college. I'm going to say that name but he's built like one of these true power hitters. Yeah. In MLB that you see. He's built like that, and apparently got into one the other day. Also made a nice diving catch. And that's a defensive end. That's not like a wide, you can get a wide receiver, a DB, a lot of times that play baseball, and they can get out in the outfield and center field, and they can steal bases and get on. And and by the way, if you ask anybody outside of Marco Jones, said which guy on this baseball team also was recruited for football, 100 out of 100, you're going to say Terrence Keel Jr. Now, he looks terrific out there. Yeah. And has really had a good fall and off season as a freshman. It's just such a talented team. They're going to be fun to watch and talk about early on. But look at that position at end. I don't know how it's going to look because you're talking about a couple of transfers plus a guy who was a true freshman last year that saw only spot duty. And then you've got a couple of guys that were backups that played a lot. So we don't even really know what kind of leap they can make. That is the most unknown position on the field. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing because when you say unknown, you don't know where it's going to go. I'm very intrigued by the talent and the pieces. I'm very intrigued in particular by Howell and Kennedy. But obviously, you'd rather just look at your D-line and be returning as much as you're on your O-line.
Yep.
That's optimal, but you're not in an optimal world there. But I do think there's a potential there for the position to be a pleasant surprise.
All right.
And it needs to be.
We are kind of late on time here. Let's do linebackers, and then we'll hit a break.
Jordan Lockhart for me, man.
Yep.
And Noah McHale. I mean, Lockhart, as a true freshman last year, caught my eye a few times. And Noah to me might be the one because he's going to come in as a true freshman. Look, you got some experience ahead of you in Scooby and Torian and Damian Sanford, but I think his potential to be an impact freshman, if I'm picking one, it might very well be him.
And you want to do quickly cornerbacks?
You're talking about making a jump.
Huge jump. Yep. Des Ricks, right? If Des Ricks makes that huge jump.
If Des Ricks makes that jump, then that certainly changes a ton. The other one I would say is from year 1 to year 2 at A&M, Marcus Ratcliffe. San Diego State to the SEC is a big leap. He flashed some stuff early. I thought he had to work through some things as the season went on. Those two guys struggled at times, but they also flashed at times. So, yeah, those would be if we looked up and saw Des Ricks starting and it wasn't due to injury, then that means that guy has really become a different player and started to, realize his physical gifts in terms of how you can translate that into coverage.
All right, we'll hit a break. When we come back on TexAgs Live, we'll talk a little basketball. We haven't gotten to that. Hopefully get some baseball in as well. Right now, Southwood Valley Animal Hospital. You can find them here in the heart of College Station. Dr. Justin and Dr. Lauren Casares took over ownership in 2022, and they're doing great work in this community. They've been serving the Brazos Valley, Southwood has, for over 30 years. But as I mentioned, Dr. Justin and Dr. Lauren took over in 2022, Dr. Lauren did. And they provide routine veterinary services, including wellness visits, sick, emergency care, and surgical cases. And they provide advanced medical care at affordable prices. They're elevating medicine here in the Brazos Valley. They take care of the students in the community as well. So if you are a student at A&M or just a student and you need to get hooked up, tell them. They will hook you up. And there's also a TexAgs discount. It's called the TexAgs 12 discount. You tell the receptionist you're a TexAgs listener to give you $12 off your first visit for being a new client there at Southwood Animal Hospital. All right, it is 979, the phone number, 979-693-9898. That again is 979-693-9898, or check out southwoodvalleyvet.com.
We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Do you know what the Bushido code stands for if you were to translate it into English?
No, I do not, LaRusso.
The way of the warrior. That's what it means.
Okay. And that is what?
Samurai. It's basically a value and a principle that originated with that original samurai class back in a long time ago. I don't have the year in front of me.
You know, I feel like if I...
Would you like to know about their principles?
I'm going to demonstrate. I got a video of my hair. Like, I'd like to... I'm going to start coming in here like this.
Oh, actually, I think that's a good look.
Just to out-samurai you.
Okay.
I might even put... I'm not going to say what, you know... Just out-samurai you.
You can try.
And... What benevolence? What is this?
Loyalty.
What is it?
These are the principles.
Isn't that A&M's? Isn't that the code of honor or whatever? The
A&M
code of
learned
honor
from the samurai.
Yeah, it sounds like they're
like
pretty,
Tom Cruise in that one movie.
They're pretty similar. They're pretty similar.
Did you watch the samurai movie with Tom Cruise?
Movie, yeah.
Good movie. Like I feel like him now.
It was like a middle of the road Tom Cruise movie.
Loyalty, honor, respect, benevolence. Excuse me. Justice, courage, and honesty.
Okay, I'm worried about you. Like, I think. This is shaping up where we mentioned this the other day, the movie The Last Dragon.
Great movie.
To the beat of the rhythm of the night. DeBarge. That was a big one when I was in like 5th grade.
It's great.
But I'm starting to worry that you might branch off and like actually believe you're some type of samurai. Like I'm concerned. Like the guy in that movie, Shogun was his name, or Shonuff. Which one was it?
Shonuff.
I'm worried that you're like going to be out in the neighborhoods, like rounding up a gang of people that think they're like this is. Well, it's taken on a little bit of a dark tenor in my mind.
I think others believe that I'm going the right path. In fact, if we go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, there's a text that came in from Lance in the Golden Triangle.
I think you're the guy that, like, if there's a like in a one of the old wars, face paint, and you're screaming, and you got Mel Gibson yelling, you know, freedom, and you've been training your whole life for that moment. And as you're everyone's lined up with arrow, and you just look at me and Bronny and Zane, and you go like this, like
I'm actually more like Colonel.
You're doing
Travis.
like a Nancy Kerrigan. Why? And you
like that.
Because that was pretty good.
That was good. Yeah, but
What's the text say?
It says, David, I'm a Marine combat veteran, and if I see anyone on the TexAgs staff being a warrior, it's you.
Oh, really?
Wow. I think
Lance in the Golden Triangle.
I'm just telling you, I think the first arrow finds you.
No, you don't know me well enough. I'd be hiding behind many people. Like, I don't want to do this.
Olin.
It's finally real. Olin. Oh, let's go. Let's go. All right, let's get back to where were we? Basketball.
Okay.
Shall we talk some basketball here?
They've been playing like warriors.
They are warriors.
They do.
With a warrior fan in me, because I worry about the cold shooting that happens in many games. You had 7 and 2 in close games.
I looked at this game the other day, and it was like, golly, C.J. Wilcher went 2 for 3. He was the only guy to make more than one shot outside of Wade, Henry, and Pharrell Payne. Pharrell and Henry were 8 of 14, which is really good for the bigs. And obviously Wade 7 for 11, with all 7 of his shots being 3-pointers. It's one of those games that you lose if Wade Taylor isn't hot on the road. Hot for his hottest game he's had
this season.
Since coming this season from a 3-point perspective too. But as far as coming back, I mean, that was the Wade that, look, there's going to be a game where Wade does that and Zurich Phelps isn't 1 for 9. And Manny only made, between Phelps, Manny, really, when I look at these guys playing, like, okay, you did not have Solo, which is a big hit. In a game like that, I think that's a big hit. Like, I think Solo, his defense, his rebounding, his physicality, I think it's big against a team like South Carolina. So they lost a big percentage of that with him. They had guys that made up for it. Most notably Henry and Pharrell Payne. But if Wade, that was the Wade Taylor down the stretch last year, That was the Wade Taylor in Nashville when he shot Kentucky out of the game early, when he almost shot Florida out of the game early. And if you can, that Wade is going to show up.
He showed up
for
against
a
Nebraska.
Stretch. He's going to Nebraska. He's going to show up at a game here or there. There's going to be a stretch of play where he does it. Hopefully, that's starting now. If that is combined with Zurich Phelps scoring or Manny, either one, then this team, with their defense and rebounding and the front court play, it's going to be really, really difficult to beat. So, because really all they got the other night offensively was really Wade and some key buckets down low.
They shot 60% overall and 53% from three-point range in the first half, but in the second half, they shot 29%.
Yep.
And 33% from three. So that, and they only won the rebounding battle by 3.
Well, that goes to show everything. Well, not everything, but what I was just saying about the scoring.
Mm-hmm.
When A&M scored how many in the first or second half? I mean, they scored 44 in the first half and 32 in the second, and that included a bunch of free throws at the end. So, I mean, that was the difference, was the shooting, really the shooting from distance. Because that was, Wade made a bunch more threes in the first half than he did the second. I think Wilcher's 3 was in the first half as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. I read this. KenPom rankings have A&M 32nd in offense, 7th in defense, with the 4th toughest strength of schedule.
Well, before we go on to KenPom, we mentioned the shooting. And we've talked about that a lot in the stretches. I do think it's worth noting that in 2 of their last 3 games, right? Oklahoma was a struggle shooting the whole game, I think, for them. But in 2 of their last 3 games, the Texas game, they were so cold in the second half. This one, they didn't make a bunch in the second half either. But just game-wise, they've hit what? Like almost 23s in 2 of those 3. I know it was heat check in the first half in both of them, then they went cold. But it's still the number. At the end of the game, they hit X number of 3-pointers. They've hit almost 20 between South Carolina and Texas combined. Just something to keep in mind if you're saying, are they starting to find their rhythm a little bit from beyond the arc? Man, if we could just get Manny or Zurich, like you saw Zurich in Norman, and the shot was falling. We saw Manny towards the end of last year. We saw him a couple times now here recently where it feels like he might be warming up a little bit. Gosh, that's to me how this team becomes a team capable of a run. Because the consistents are, I know he's not been perfect this year, but the consistents are Wade and rebounding and defense. Those are the constants with this team.
Yeah.
You start mixing in the variables, including what free throw shooting, which this past week was a lot better.
Significantly better.
And I think it's even more important that it was a lot better on the road at South Carolina. Now, they had some, he mentioned Wade, they had some misses late that damn near put you in a really tough spot.
Not Henry.
No, Henry was nails. And Henry, a lot of times, is a 1-for-2 guy where he'll miss that first one and he'll straighten it up on the second. It looks beautiful. It's crazy. Like when Henry makes them, they look great, everything about it. But, man, that was clutch. On the road, needing 2 free throws to put the game away, and your big man goes up and does it. That's what a
2
veteran,
games in a row.
That's what a veteran does. But I think free throws have definitely taken a tick up the last 2 games. But I was particularly happy to see it happen on the road.
We'll hit a break here. We'll only have a short segment on the other side. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Ryan Grubb, going to Alabama to be their OC, reuniting with Kalen DeBoer. Alabama this year, I think, very interesting with Ty Simpson looking to be the starting quarterback. I think he fits more what Kalen likes to do. And now he's teamed up with his OC that he has so much success with at Washington.
Yeah, and it's crazy how quickly Grubb grubbed out with the Seahawks. That was kind of, it's weird that a guy that was so successful in college could not flame out, but just kind of be looked at as replaceable that quickly in the NFL. That surprised me. I'm sure Bama's really excited to get him, or DeBoer is really excited to get him back. That to me was like a big part of that hire. Little known trivia, it was out there. We talked about it, but people seem to have forgotten. A&M was that close to getting Ryan Grubb when they made the Bobby Petrino hire. They just couldn't quite pry him away from DeBoer at Washington. He probably knew what he had there in Penix. That was after 1 year of Penix,
right?
And they were getting ready to make a run there. And he probably, I doubt Grubb saw DeBoer leaving, but just probably knew they were in for something special, and he could parlay that into he probably thought he could parlay that into a head coaching job pretty quickly. I'm still a little surprised that Washington didn't make that. Maybe Grubb's not ready. A lot of people wanted to see, they believed A&M was going to hire, Schumann, the DC at Georgia. There were people that were pushing that. I know who you are. You know who you are, but you'll pretend you didn't say it. You acted like you knew that A&M was interested. They weren't in Schumann as head coach, just because Dan Lanning had kind of followed that. It wasn't the same path because he had more experience, but Dan Lanning went to Oregon. So everybody goes, oh, well, here's the next guy. It's Glenn Schumann. He's a damn good DC. There's a reason why he's still at Georgia as the DC. He's going to be a head coach in the future. It's a lot like, Gerard Johnson. Everyone's excited about Gerard's career as an Aggie in the NFL, and he might get this OC job. I don't know what's happened today. He might get the Texans one, but it is a process, and when people deem you ready to ascend to the next level, that's usually when it happens. And in the case of Schumann, people wanted to hire him as a head coach a year ago, and I think it'll be a little bit longer before he leaves Athens to be a head coach you're talking about Texas A&M. So when he does leave as a head coach, everyone that was claiming that, everyone that got pissed off at me for shooting it down and saying he's not ready, when I was going off intel people that actually worked with him and knew him, when that time comes, let's see where he becomes a head coach. And remember, it's going to be multiple years after people were wanting him at A&M. I think he's a hell of a DC. Great one, actually. But again, these things all happen in their own time. So maybe Ryan Grubb's not quite ready to be a head coach, and maybe he proves it in Tuscaloosa because they need to make that their offense. And it's real easy to say that Jalen Milroe held him back, but it might have been like maybe Ryan Grubb would have made that big of a difference. We'll see this year because Ty Simpson's. They're going into it now with a guy that's proven nothing other than a high rating.
Billy, thank you, sir.
Well, we're not going to go extra.
We can go extra. We're currently going extra. The show ended.
Oh, we are? Okay.
Yeah.
What, is there anything we've missed?
Well, did you want to talk about, this is a college football note. Do you want to talk about Matt Rule highly doubts his team's going to have a spring game because of the transfer portal? I dealt with a lot of people offering our players a lot of opportunities after last year's spring game.
I think that's going too far with it. Like, what are you hiding? Are you really?
People already know.
Yeah, I mean, what's he worried about? Okay, I'm giving you just one example. The receiver from Kentucky that transferred there that I kind of wish A&M would have gone on because they could have gotten him. Are they worried? And he's that big outside guy that's got a ton of SEC experience. Yeah. I mean, the guy's played at Kentucky for like 3 years and put up numbers. If he goes and shows out in your spring game, is that you worried about A&M going back in and getting him? I'd love to see it, but is that what you're worried about? Because everybody knew what he was coming out of Kentucky. They got 3 years of film or whatever it is.
I think it's more about the guys that we don't
I
know
get
about.
it. Like, well, had Berkature stayed.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying there, but my point is, it's a ridiculous. I think it's too much worry to take away something at Nebraska that is such. And he says, "Oh, ours was one of the most." Well, man, your program isn't even any good. They're not good at all, actually, not even close to good. And I hope they get back. I like Rule and I like Nebraska, but let's not kid ours was one of the most. It was one of the most attended. I don't understand. Like, it wasn't like it was played 47 times on TV for everyone to keep rewatching. Every game's played. Every program in college football records every single game that's played in the spring. They have video guys that record all of them that are of any kind of relevance to your program. They were doing that long before the portal existed. They're still doing it. It can only be on once on ESPN 7, and it's going to get recorded and watched. So I think fans care about that spring game so much in Lincoln. To take that away because you're scared people are going to watch your players, I think that is coach paranoia going too far. Now, if you've got no game, I'll be honest, like the A&M spring game attendance, they don't put a lot into trying to get that up to 40, 50, 60,000 people and those type things. And really in this region of the country, you don't see, or in the state anyway, a lot of times you see it more when there's a new coach, first year excitement, whatever.
Right.
But some of these schools, if they didn't do it, but I also think it's too much worry. Have a spring game, have an open look, showcase, turn it into a positive. Don't be so worried about what the negative is going to be.
Yep.
What about your Mavericks?
You want to talk about that?
Sure, everybody else is. I think it's fascinating.
Stupid trade. And I don't see it working. There's a world where it could work because you get a 5, and 5s are, I still think in today's NBA, they're
Even
not.
though he thinks he's a 4.
Well, this is true. But it could work. Kyrie's still very good. But you don't get rid of young, MVP-ish talent. Now, if the reason is because they didn't feel like he was ever going to get in shape, even an out-of-shape Luka, Harden for years was out of shape.
Look, I agree. And I think he's horrific on defense.
Yeah.
Horrific, like embarrassing. Most of the NBA can exploit him in one-on-one situations. I think he's a terrible team defender. I do think that matters, obviously, especially come playoff time. But if you act like he doesn't make up for,
he got him to the finals.
Yeah, and I know they have other guys that showed up. And
he was the guy.
He put that team on his back. He was incredible. Like one step below Dirk winning it that year. One step below Olajuwon willing the Rockets to it. One step below what you see, what you saw Jordan doing. It was incredible, hitting game-winning shots. But I think he got exposed to a large degree against the Celtics and that team offense they run and they put. But he is here's the deal, as a franchise. And this wasn't the case with James Harden in Houston, even though it was letting him go. You felt like that window was closing. This window just opened for the Mavericks. And I understand, man, I get both sides of it, though. I get, if you look at him and you have all these concerns about work ethic, the weight thing doesn't, dude, I heard Charles Barkley talking about it. That guy was the round mound of rebound. Some of these guys can play differently, he's unique. Shaq always fought it, I'd be more worried about his lack of defense and just commitment to it, maybe, than I would maybe the weight is just.
Let's just say that all that is true, Billy. Let's just say, all right, this guy.
I'm just saying, if they don't want to pay him the super max.
Sure. Let's say that's all true. Then why did only one team didn't negotiate with one team?
That felt dirty to me. And I know.
You don't think the Rockets would have considered, all these teams in the NBA, you don't think they would have considered, I'll take Luka?
That's my problem with it, is yes, if the Mavericks looked and said, with our team right now, with Kyrie and this young talent, like if there was one guy I could put in here, it's Anthony Davis. Okay, but that's going to be without Luka. And if they say it's okay, I think that's our winning formula this year and next. Like we can win a title in the next 2-3 years. How could you look at Luka and the team and say we couldn't win one? But I guess they're saying if we supermax him, we're stuck with him.
Let me give you an example of this. This is the Aggies saying, Jace, go ahead and leave. Your best player got you to the doorstep of an NBA championship. I don't think we can do this.
I don't even think it's that. I think Jace is a great player, and he might be the number one pick. But there are so many great players on that team. It'd be like Jace being the only player.
I'll give you that, yeah.
And he hit 45 home runs, and like Luka's that good. So my thing is, the fans are the ones like that buy the tickets, come to the games, buy your merch, wear it. Luka Doncic was the heartbeat of that sports city. The Dallas Stars are incredible this year. I mean, they not say incredible, but that is a top tier franchise in the NHL. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team. Like Micah Parsons, one of the best players at his position in the NFL. Probably so young to say it, but looks like a Hall of Fame pass rusher, right? The Rangers are a couple years removed from a World Series. They've got, Seager and these big names, they're exciting. Luka is the pride and joy of Dallas professional sports. It ain't the Stars. It's certainly not the Cowboys right now. They're stuck with them and they're never abandoning him, Dallas, but that is not the pride and joy right now.
It was Luka.
It's Luka. And
international star.
And my thing is, I think most Mavericks fans would say, if I could guarantee you a title this year or next, with Anthony Davis, by the way, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and still, I know he's injury prone. When he's healthy, he's elite.
He's fantastic, yeah.
He's elite. I mean, he's a first team All NBA defender, probably a first, second team player. He can get that back. He still does it when he's healthy. But if I promised Mavericks fans they would win one this year or next, or you could take the next 10 years of Luka and he retires as a Maverick and you don't win one in the next 3 years and you're just going to take your chances that you finally put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Like what year was Dirk in when you won it?
2010.
So how many years in was he?
12.
Okay. And I could say it might work out like that and it might not. But we're going to keep taking shots at it. I think every single fan that I've interacted with in the last couple days would have said, "I'll take that."
Yeah,
and what are you? To me, it's kind of tone deaf in terms of what your city and what your fan base.
Take a look at it, and let's close it on this. How about this? Luka learns. I'm not a LeBron guy, but let's say Luka learns from LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, LeBron has incredible work ethic from what I read. He takes care of his body. He eats the right things. Goes right. If Luka, and then the Mavericks have to pay the Lakers a couple times a year and watch them win championships. Now look, if Anthony Davis is healthy and they have a run, and that team is good with Anthony Davis without Luka. They are good.
Yeah.
But I just think the upside for Luka over the next 15 years or 10 years.
It almost feels like it's different because no one was questioning dreams, work ethic, and all that. But the Rockets didn't win into how many years into Olajuwon's career?
94, so it would have been 10 years.
10 plus years.
They almost traded him 2 years before the championship.
Yeah, that's right. So, imagine
for work
Rockets,
ethic and for having a bad attitude, which is not the dream we know. That's what Steve Patterson said at the time.
So imagine that. Because I was trying to think of what would be a Houston sports comparison. It's not Altuve. It's not J.J. Watt. It's Olajuwon. It's not James Harden. It sounds similar to Harden, but it is Akeem. Like the pride and joy of the city. He was at U of H, and then it was like, at that time, too, the whole thing was wrapped around Dream.
Yep.
And it would have been like trading him away back then.
I told it would be in the first segment. It'd be like trading Dirk after the 06 finals when they lost to the Heat. And this guy's never going to play defense. He's never going to be clutch.
Yeah.
You robbed your fans of a potential Dirk 2.0 because I still think Luka, at 25 years old, does not know his body and himself yet. The Luka that he could be here in a few years. Now, at the end of the year,
you get him right.
I think we can have a top conversation. He's a Real Madrid legend. You know that, right?
No.
Yeah, he played for Real Madrid's basketball team.
Did you really?
Won championships, plural.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah. He and Sergio Llull, who was drafted by the Rockets in 2003. Sorry. Sometimes I'm Gabe when it comes to like stuff that doesn't matter. And sometimes I'm not because he remembers everything. I remember 2 things.
Who's the Rocket guy? Speaking of Olajuwon, one of the the Rockets had this array of like these horrific backup
centers,
big men. Remember
Chucky Brown,
Chuck
Nevitt, yeah,
I know.
Charles Jones.
Yeah, those guys all sucked, but then they would like do something.
Chili Pete Jocut wasn't really a center, but he was a big man.
Anyway, going back, I think it was the wrong thing to do. The guy to come out there and start firing off jokes at the beginning of the press conference was ridiculous. But
how did Jason Kidd not know?
I don't believe a lot of that. So I don't think LeBron didn't know. I don't think Jason.
Imagine
Kidd
I made a
didn't
content
know.
decision and didn't.
It's not even comparable. Not even comparable. It's crazy. But anyway, in bye week at a perfect time, I think, for Aggie basketball. Get some rest, get Solo back and healthy,
hopefully, yeah,
and get ready for this second half of the SEC schedule. It's good. I heard y'all talking this morning. Like, can they get to 4-2? 6-2. That would be really difficult on that schedule. Difficult. If they went 6-2, or no, 6-3, at 12-6, I think they're a lay down 3 seed. Lay down. I think. You guys talked about if they're 9-9. I think that would be going 3-6 down the stretch. They might fall down to a
7 seed.
No, hell no, absolutely not. Maybe a 6. Maybe a 6. There's some people talking about them as a 2 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they went 6-3 in the second stretch, I think they'd be a 2 or 3. Probably a 2. Like you have to think to get to 6. Okay, Georgia and Vandy at home, LSU on the road. That's 3, right? The other 3 would have to come out of, Tennessee, Florida, Auburn, Missouri, who's red hot. And then Arkansas over here at home. So those 4, here's the other 4. There's one more I'm not thinking of. Tennessee, Auburn,
Nick,
Florida,
put the schedule up so we can see.
Tennessee, Auburn, Florida.
There it is.
Read them out for me.
Missouri, Georgia, Arkansas, at Mississippi State.
At Mississippi State, at Florida, Auburn at home, Tennessee at home, and Missouri on the road. Out of those 5, you'd have to win all 4 of these other ones, and you'd have to go 2-3 in those 5. It's doable.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tough. If they go 2-3 in those 5, and 4-0 against Georgia, a Vandy team that'll fall out of the rankings now, but is a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas and at LSU, so 4-0 there. Because if you go, but 3-1 there is probably more doable. 4-0, and that's hard. You saw Arkansas versus Kentucky.
Yeah.
You see how Vandy's played this year? They beat Tennessee. Like, probably 3-1 in those, and then you'd probably have to go 3-2 in those 5. If you get to 12 any which way, I think you're threatening a 2 seed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And if you went 9-9 and you flip this first half and second half, I still think you're probably no worse than a 5 pending the SEC tournament. You might need to go 1-1 to keep that 5. But I don't think in any world does that put you at a 7.
Yep.
I'm telling you, like, their resume, as Luke has done a great job of pointing out, is as good. I mean, it is a top 5 resume, which puts you, like, in theory, 1 step off a 1 seed. And again, like, they don't look like that. They don't feel like that. They look and feel like in this year's basketball, like a 3. Like, if I'm just thinking of the way I've seen them play versus the schedule coming up, where they land, they look and feel like a 3-4 seed. Because again, I know they've got flaws, but you got to look at what they've done, how they win versus the other teams around them. They look and feel like a 3, 4.
Yeah.
And I think to get there, you probably in these last 9, if they went 5 and 4, they're probably a 3. If they went 4 and 5, maybe that's a 4. But a 2 seed is not out of the question because they get Auburn and Tennessee at home. They can win games like that. We've seen it over the last few years.
Yeah.
They can win games like that at home, and then they are tough enough to go steal one that, not to say you don't expect, because it's not like these teams are invincible, but they could go steal one at Mizzou, at Florida, or at Mississippi State. You get one of those 2 at home, the big ones, top 5 win, which they did last year against Tennessee, which they did the year before against Bama. I don't know if Tennessee was top 5 last year, but they were certainly like top 7 or 8, if not top 5. You did it against Bama the year before. And then I do think they can steal one of those 3 on the road. So, anywho, exciting right now. This past week, David, was a concern. You knew this was a stretch where you could win games. You got at Mizzou coming up, then you got Georgia, and then I think Arkansas, right?
Yep.
It was LSU, Ole Miss, Texas, South Carolina, Missouri, Georgia, and Arkansas. Those 7 games, you knew you could maybe make hay, but you knew nothing was going to come easy. And I'm OU. It's an 8-game stretch, actually, I think. So
almost have to
when they lost to Texas, and the way they lost, and you go, okay, now you're
wiggle room.
You're 2-1 in this stretch, and now looking at OU and how they can score, and South Carolina on the road and how they've played teams at home. That little stretch this past week to me was worrisome. And if you'd have told me we're not going to have Solo as well, it becomes that much more worrisome because of the way they lost to Texas and the fact of how capable both of these teams were, OU in general, South Carolina at least at home. They went 2-0, man, and neither one was easy. That was quietly a big week for Buzz and that basketball team.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
See you guys tomorrow. Josh Pate on the show, 9:35.